Peters and his team, Kim Ranke. They really went out of their way to be here on a Friday morning. And a lot of these folks are coming in from out of town, probably sacrificing some family time, but they wanted to be here with you because they knew this was going to be very, very, very important. And before I go into ATARC, this is like old home week for me. I brought my original USDA badge. I used to work here. I don't want to give you a hint on my age, but it expired in June of '94. So might have to turn that in. I don't know if we had the security we have today on that. And before I get into ATARC, ATARC actually was founded because of the USDA. We have a special guest here, Chris Smith, who is the former CIO of USDA. Stand up, Chris. He indirectly started ATARC. Because USDA ran this mobility event. It was fantastic. They ran it here, and the first year was really good. The second year, I really helped out on the program. Inauspiciously, the second day, they had the earthquake in DC, and we had to cancel that second day. And I hope you didn't leave your keys in the building because you had a long day in front of you. But why we started ATARC, we had to fill a gap, as Dave was talking about this morning. Remember the GSA conference scandal where we weren't allowed to go to conferences anymore? So the USDA was not allowed to do the event. So I was like, this is a fantastic event. How are we going to do this? So we ended up taking it over. And with that genesis, we started ATARC as a nonprofit. And basically, it's about what we try to do with ATARC today, bring government and industry together to collaborate and solve these hard problems. So really good to be back here. Maybe I'll get a new badge one day. I don't know. But so anyway, I think we know about Stratus. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it was conceived by USDA to address expiring and fragmented cloud contracts. And just from taking a poll around the room, it's already working, which is fantastic. But without further ado, I do have to thank our partners, the folks back there that signed up. For those of you in the government and other partners, please talk to them. They brought their A team. So do we have the logos? Can we advance the slide? Okay. Oh, I have to advance the slide. Okay. Big green button. Think I can handle it, even without my glasses. Big green button. Okay. A round of applause to all our partners. Thank you all. You make this possible. And anyway, without further ado, I'll introduce my friend Dave Peters. Might have to go back. Oh, okay, thank you. Got it. Yeah.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I want to thank Tom to start. Tom and I go back a ways. A lot of the mobility projects were government-wide initiatives that my team, when I was formerly at GSA, ran, and you know, Tom really hit the nail on the head in terms of partnership between industry, between mission areas, and between some of the program owners. And you know, he set the tone perfectly for what we want to accomplish today. We want to listen. We want to learn. Actually, I'll come around since I can't see you guys over here. Sorry about that. He really hit the nail on the head in terms of what we want to accomplish today, in terms of the collaboration, the discussion, and what Stratus is as well today and beyond. Tom talked a lot about history, and I want to start there as well, though I'll take a different path. Today was really 6 years in the making. My boss, Gary Washington, that many of you know, really set the tone 6 years ago. He brought in the centers of excellence, and they did a lot of tremendous work. They established a data analytics program, which led to our CDO, which we have now today. And Gary always says that our CDO is the best in the federal government, and it's because of those roots of modernization that Gary planted back then. We did customer experience initiatives where we measured things like what's the submission rate, what's the successful submission rate of farm loan applications. And we looked at our IT infrastructure, our websites, our processes, how we process those, and we said, how can we make that better? And within a year, through collaboration between IT and the initiatives that led to the establishment of the first customer experience officer at USDA, we improved that success rate 5%, which was tremendous. We built a contact center where we leveraged SaaS technology. We leveraged what is, the early findings of AI to serve as the engine for the chatbot, to take response times for some topics and subjects that were 3 days, 6 days, 7 days, and turn it into less than 3 hours. Okay, so that great work back then really put us on the path to today. Another product for back then was the plan for cloud. What should cloud be at USDA? And we recognized the need for common intake, complex solutions, better infrastructure, better processes. And so then fast forward, as Tom talked about some of the expiring contracts, that created a tactical and a need that we had to address. Our primary CSP contracts were expiring. Some of our primary SaaS contracts were expiring. But rather than just replace, we knew the market was changing. More importantly, we knew our customers' needs were changing. So this was opportunity just pounding on the door. And so applying the strategy of partnering with industry, USDA could not, cannot, and should not try to do this on our own. So we had to and recognize the strengths that industry brings, the ability to move fast, to truly be agile, to learn of accomplishments and successes that you've had not only in other missions and areas and agencies and departments across the government, but we look at our commercial peers as well. What are you guys doing there? And let's build that into our programs. Every single day we hear about, the Amazon experience or the .com, I mean, from a consumer perspective, and bringing that consumer experience to the federal government. Why can't the federal government do it? So we want to do that here, and that's what Stratus is about. I talk about 6 years in the making to get to today. It's like a vineyard. You've got to find land. You've got to choose the right plants. And this is our vineyard. Stratus is our vineyard. Okay, and so we've got 6 years ago, we started selecting the land. We started planning, and today, with all of you here, we've got fruit producing trees. Okay, but there's more work to be done. Today is just an incredible major milestone that we're all going to work together to harvest that fruit, to produce, to stomp those grapes, to produce wine, and then distribute it. Okay, no vineyard does it all on its own. Even the big ones, they don't produce and distribute, and that's how Stratus is. We're here to partner. Okay, so I expect the two most common words we're going to hear today are partner and collaboration. Okay, and I look forward to that. It's not about technology. Technology is rich in the roots, but it's not about technology. It's about partnering and collaboration. If you go back to the original roots of USDA, Abraham Lincoln founded it in 1862, referred to it as the People's Department, and we want Stratus to be the People's Program. It's an ecosystem. We're all here today, and we're here to listen and learn, and automate and look to the eventual automation of how we pick those grapes, how we stomp those grapes, how we process and produce that wine together. And so with that in mind, I'd like to turn it over to our partner, Kelly Petrie, who's my peer as the Assistant CIO of Foreign Ag. And so Kelly Petrie.
Thank you, Dave. Good morning and welcome. As Dave mentioned, I'm Kelly Petrie. I'm the ACIO for Foreign Agricultural Service. And I just want to say I'm excited to be here today with you all and excited to be part of this launch event with this amazing team of people. I'll be real honest. It is very scary looking out at all of these faces staring back at us. But that being said, it is exciting that you all are here to, as Dave said, partner with us on this journey. So thank you. If you've heard the phrase, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, I think that sums up modernization, right? At the end of the day, the journey that the missionaries are going on is different, right? Each missionary has its own unique business needs and its goals supporting USDA. However, we are at different stages of that journey. Some are at the beginning stage, like FAS. We're looking to go to the cloud. We want to modernize. We want to learn about the technology. We want to be, innovative, right? Um, some are partway through their journey. They may have selected a platform, a solution. They may be looking to improve their customer experience through their loan and grant portals like rural development. Or they may be further along in the process and they're looking to use innovative technologies like AI to enhance what they do today, to provide rapid response, to be more efficient in their business processes, like Forest Service. But understanding how the technology, how we can work with you all to do these things, to implement this is really what I think is critical for the mission areas. As Dave mentioned, and I'll kind of pull that thread a little bit, the partnership aspect. There's partnering with USDA and DISC. There's partnering with the mission areas for their business needs. And there is our partnership with you all to support us, to work through this together. We cannot move at the speed of light. It does not happen overnight. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of processes, there's a lot of coordination to get across the finish line. And without you all as our partners, that's almost impossible sometimes. So working with you through the Stratus vehicle, this is how we believe we're going to achieve our successes. Regardless of where we are in that, we look forward to working with you. And I'm going to pass it to Dawn to talk a little bit about the innovation and the technologies. And so Dawn?
So great to see everyone here. In case you don't know me, Don Bittner, Chief Technology Officer here at USDA. And a lot of familiar faces. I probably have talked to almost everybody on this showcase here, at least once in one capacity or another. But this is exciting. I've been working throughout government for close to 2 decades now, and I've never seen something that gives us accessibility to technology partners as much as Stratus has really pulled a lot of things together, not to use a pun there. The idea that government and industry needs to partner is as probably as old as I am when it comes to actually trying to adopt commercial technologies. The only way we're going to get better is by learning from industry, by learning from the commercial sector, by learning from even academia to a certain extent of how we can be more efficient. How can we drive down costs while improving customer experience? We're going into an age of, we're already in the age of digital. We're going into the age of artificial intelligence and being able to enable the knowledge worker, which you all, I guarantee you, every single one of the companies here have something to offer to our knowledge workers. So I encourage, the thinking forward on how to enable innovation for not just our knowledge workers, but the sectors that we support. So think of the farmer, how things are going to improve or change on what kind of information is going to start coming from the agricultural sector that maybe the commercial's already collecting or that farmer is already collecting, and how that can improve, whether it's our research areas or some of our more practical, firefighting or disaster response areas. So that to me is innovation, where we can actually look at optimizing the things we do. As for cloud, our cloud journey, USDA is very mature in our cloud journey. Some components are a lot further along, but I would say it's not necessarily a further or maturity challenge. It's the opportunity challenge, right? When does that window of opportunity present itself to now, okay, how do we migrate to the cloud? And what lessons can we learn? The advantage I think Kelly will have is that we've got a lot of battle scars, and it'll be a lot easier for organizations that are just kind of getting to the cloud and figuring out what can go there. Meanwhile, the ones that are already kind of figuring things out and have those battle wounds and kind of opportunities for optimization is the other piece. And then I'll kind of close with this, and I know a lot of people think CTO and the new technologies, emerging technologies. We're interested in the new technologies that are kind of on the horizon, enabled by cloud, whether it's legacy or new AI, using that terminology makes me chuckle, but bringing AI into the equation and how we can adopt autonomy across either the department or help our sectors figure out how autonomy will help them. And then, of course, the good old fashioned data analytics, which I think was kind of the founding of this department, of gathering statistical data and trying to figure out what our futures hold. So really encourage people to think in all aspects of what USDA does and what these technologies can bring and how we can kind of elevate those technologies both within the scale of the department, and I'll also point to the scale of our other federal partners that we're already partnering with, and those opportunities that we hold. So I'm very excited. A lot of people, groan at the idea of contracts. I remember day one when Dave told me that Stratus was already kind of down the road and they've got the framework and he laid it all out for me. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys have solved the problem for the civilian sector on the contract front for cloud. So bringing these SaaS capabilities together, that to me is pull 2 and pull 3 are like the future aspect of where government's going to go with cloud. So welcome and thank you all for attending. We doing questions? Let me see. Questions?
Oops, sorry about that. That was my bad. I might get fired here. Next, we're going to do a panel with Troy, right? With Sasha. Okay. Sorry. Thank you, everybody. Next, we have a panel about Stratus goals and objectives moderated by Sasha Bauerberlich, Chief Enablement and Architectural Branch at DISC at USDA. I'm going to advance the slides, which I can't see. All right. Oh, okay. I see it right in front of me. Also, we have, I forgot to mention, we have some overflow if you don't want to stand all day. It's really close. It's right next door. It's with these balloons right here. We have another set of balloons. It's in the press room. There was about 80 seats there. So if you don't want to stand all day, you're welcome to use that facility. All right, we got Sasha. We had to redecorate here. Okay. You gonna? Okay. We're pulling them out of war rooms around the USDA right now.
You got 2 mics?
So, you're gonna be up there? I don't know if she has a mic there.
All right, before we get started, I just want to make a quick announcement. If there's anyone in the room that has hearing difficulties, especially in a big echoey area like this, there's an overflow space in 107A, the USDA press room, and you should be able to hear better in there. So that's an option. All right, welcome to panel 1, overview of Stratus goals and objectives. I'm Sasha Saberlich, the Chief of Enablement and Architecture at DISC. Also, for the next 3 months or so, I'm working for Mr. Bittner as the Innovation Hub Lead. So anyone who has proposals for innovation incubators, I'm the one to call. So that's my shameless plug. All right, let's introduce our panel for today. Here we've got Mr. Dave Grundy, the Director of Strategy Management and Complex Solutions Division at DISC. Fernando Gomez, the Stratus Program Manager. Troy Hamilton, who is the USDA Cloud Working Group lead for mission area representation and the acting ACIO for the remission area. And Frank Hodo, the OCFO Acquisitions Program Manager. All right, so before we start the panel, we just wanted to do a little background on the history of the Stratus program. So about a year or two ago, as the previous contracting vehicle was getting ready to expire, DISC started doing some market research to understand and make succession planning for that contract. As they worked through that market research, it became clear that in most cases, there were multiple resellers and potentially another federal agency between USDA and the actual purchase. That was a major problem that needed to be addressed. So, Mr. Grundy, in light of that, how did you address those problems, and what are the overarching goals and objectives of the Stratus program?
I think that's the first time that Sasha has ever called me Mr. Grundy.
Agree.
Everybody knows my boss is Dave Peters, and so he gets the honor of being called Dave. So I have the long hair and I'm the diva, so I go by one name only, so Grundy. No, thanks, Sasha. Appreciate that. It's an honor to be here today. Thanks everybody for coming. And it's very exciting to celebrate Stratus being launched. But you're right, yeah. Essentially, we're here because we had to renew a cloud contract that was pretty archaic, to be honest. And it's very, very simple. We needed to modernize our cloud contract, and we had to renew it. And the basic goal was to make it cheaper and make it faster for our mission areas. But I think what you will find throughout the day today and in our keynote earlier, I think what you will find is it's very dynamic and it's very forward thinking in terms of what we have been able to establish. And I don't think when we started this plan 6 years ago, I don't think we ever thought we would be here. And I don't think even yesterday, talking with the procurement office, I don't think we would have anticipated when we awarded this that we have got the challenges in front of us to continue to evolve it that we've got today. But getting back to the goals of it, we want to make it cheaper, we want to make it faster, but we want to make it to where industry is at the cutting edge, and we're leveraging industry to be able to roll out new services and roll out our R&D to the mission areas to enable the programs. It's really about business objectives to be able to provide our programs at the USDA the most innovative solutions as quickly and as effectively and efficiently as possible. The programs are the ACIOs, the developers, the development community within the mission areas understand their programs the best. They're the closest to those programs. They understand their missions the best. And so we want to communicate with them for what their needs are. They have appropriated funds that they have to use effectively within a year's time. The best way to do that is to connect them with industry who's already done that research and development, who can get them solutions as fast as possible. What we wanted to do is create a contract and leverage that contract to be able to get them connected as quickly as possible. So that's what we started to do. We started to reach out to our customers and say, what do you want to see in a contract? What do you want built into that contract? What's the flexibility that you need built into that contract? That's how we came up with the BOA strategy, right? How do we future-proof that contract? How do we make it available for on-ramping and off-ramping? How do we anticipate what technologies we don't know about that are going to be available in 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, right? How do we know I mean, we've got to anticipate new vendors that are going to be coming on board. Those are the types of things that we have to think about. So those are some of the goals that we wanted to anticipate for this overall program.
Thank you. I'm excited to announce that I didn't have to exercise my authority to cut you off and drag you off the stage with a hook. Dave is not known for being brief.
Sure. That's true.
So moving on, Fernando, could you talk a little bit about what makes Stratus distinct from other cloud vehicles?
Morning. Just want to thank everybody. Really a pleasure being here and looking forward with working with everyone, all the vendors, and establishing that partnership. You know, a strong partnership that will lead to innovation, cost savings, and a long-lasting establishment, you know, a long-lasting relationship, you know, with the industry. I will stick to my script because if not, we will run out of time. So I will read the script that I read, but I do want to take the liberty to ask if there are vendors here that are not part of Stratus or you haven't been aware of BOA and you are interested in that, please email stratus@usda.gov. Just let us know who you are. Let us know you're interested, and we will be reaching out to you the next time we do our own ramping. Okay, so just want to make sure you got, you know, I capture everyone that's here. If you don't have a BOA that has been awarded to you, stratus@usda.gov. Stratus stands out from other cloud vehicles in several significant ways. It is not just a cloud acquisition vehicle, but a comprehensive platform and full-service cloud acquisition program designed specifically for USDA and its partners. The team behind Stratus aimed to create a flexible vehicle that would empower the USDA to build a future-ready cloud infrastructure. And you will hear that theme across. It's about the future. It's about trying to predict, trying to establish best practices. Previously, all cloud contracts were managed through a DOI FCHS vehicle, with this acting as the cloud broker for USDA. The Stratus offers more scale, agility, and performance, enabling this to function as a full-service integrator. So now we have a direct relationship with the vendors, with the, you know, CSPs. We had the privilege to meet with each one of them yesterday, and we will continue to establish that relationship with them. USDA is tailored to support the USDA's strategy for handling SaaS, hyperscale, CSP, and integration services, and is expected to bring additional efficiency as the program matures. And that's one thing that I will ask, is give us some grace, you know, as we are learning new things every day, new capabilities, things that we need to mature and improve. So it will take time, but it will happen. We will become that contract vehicle that we inspire and desire to be. What truly sets Stratus apart is the skill, the care, and innovation invested in its creation. The Stratus team learned from other vehicles like GSA, Ascent, but adapted their approach to better meet the USDA needs and provide us a superior environment for industry partners. Unlike GSA, the Stratus was awarded in an impressive short time frame, and that's thanks to the partnership within USDA with our contracting office, which you will be hearing from them later on. Its approach to on-ramping and off-ramping vendors ensures competitive pricing and access to the latest technologies throughout the program lifecycle. So those are some of the highlights of how Stratus is different, and I'm pretty sure the contracting folks will be talking about the BOAS, basic ordering agreements, is something new. It was new to me. The closest thing I can compare it is a BPA, but it's not a BPA because there's some confusion with that. But you will hear some of the things that are very appealing of the basic ordering agreement, like the time frame, right? 10-year lifespan and the things you can do within the time frame, right? So again, I just want to thank everyone for being here. Looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Fernando. So I think we've talked quite a bit about the value of Stratus as it applies to DISC as a service provider and OCIO, namely just removing those middlemen and giving a lot more power and flexibility by having a direct relationship with the vendors. Frank, and Troy. Could you talk a little bit about how this program will benefit the mission areas?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Let me begin by saying thank you for attending today. We appreciate your support in working with us as we move forward with the Stratus launch. From a mission area perspective, let me give you a little bit of background. OCFO has dynamic financial systems that support the overall department. Additionally, we have the National Finance Center that supports payroll for 165 different agencies, as well as a variety of human resource services for the federal government. So with that being said, our reach within the systems area is pretty vast. So from a mission area perspective, one of the things that we're always looking for are better ways to develop our cloud services and cloud support offerings. When the strategic contracting team came up with the Stratus idea, looking at it at an enterprise level, one of the first things that came to my mind was the agility and flexibility that this would provide to not only our office, the OCFO, but all of the other mission areas within USDA. Again, because we have interfaces with all of the different areas within USDA, because of the different improvements and system upgrades that these agencies are always looking to make, these are things that we are constantly reevaluating, looking to modernize and improve on. So then you get to the variety of products and programs that are covered under the Stratus program, whether they be SaaS products, microservices, system integration services. These are all things that will help us moving forward, especially in regards to market research. My job is to go ahead and perform a lot of the first step program activities to go ahead and meet the needs of the Office of the Chief Financial Officer. And much of the time that depends on doing market research to find the best, most efficient tools that can move us forward in the future. Obviously, everyone knows commercial, excuse me, everyone knows commercial services that are out there and available are areas that the government is looking to move more towards. And so our ability to go ahead and mimic some of these commercial services and offerings while still meeting government mandates, security, and things of that nature is incredibly valuable. So Stratus overall is something that we're all looking forward to really enhancing our long-term program needs.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Troy Hamilton. I'm the Deputy Assistant Chief Information Officer for the RE Mission Area, Research, Education, and Economics, currently the acting ACIO for RE as well. When someone asks about value, the first thing that I think of is what would I tell an agency administrator or an agency leadership team? And when it comes to Stratus for that, we're all techies and we do IT, but I tell them the biggest value is the cost savings. We talk about that a lot in government initiatives. We're always looking for cost savings. Oftentimes it doesn't deliver what we expect. Stratus does deliver significant cost savings to agencies, and that is probably one of the biggest value propositions that we're able to share with our stakeholders on that. Now, aside from that, when we talk about some of the value that it allows the cloud broker office and this to bring to us is it allows a lot of flexibility to work for various different sizes of agencies and staff offices. We have within USDA, we have some very large mission areas, very mature cloud programs, and Stratus works for them. It's able to scale up. It can be for multi-cloud, it can be for just a single cloud service provider, lots of integrators, Pool 3 having the software as a service. There's works for the large ones. For the smaller staff offices and the smaller mission areas that aren't as mature, Stratus still offers that. And then the cloud broker office and the Stratus PMO are able to really work on that. It allows flexibility with being able to purchase against it for, say, like Pool 2. If an agency wants to use their own mission area procurement office to make a procurement against it, they can do that. Or if they want to, they can also use the that it's come to fruition and a lot faster than what a lot of us have expected that, so.
Thank you. So the next question, now that we've talked about all the benefits and how Stratus came to be, could you talk a little bit, Grundy, about how you think this process matures over time? Like, how do we iteratively continue to improve?
Sure. So I think we're starting to see, like, even now, in the infancy, we've started to adopt a enterprise cloud vendor management tool, which will take I mean, you've seen in the pool 2, pool 3 vendors and pool 1 vendors, what we built into the contract is reporting based on usage, based on invoicing, and based on billing data, that we're going to collect data to develop a vendor management tool to be able to analyze usage, to be able to analyze business use across our customer community, to be able to see what our customers are doing. And that's not to be able to regulate it by any means, but that's to be able to analyze it and to be able to say, to take advantage of that, both from a enterprise view, to be able to say, can we take the licenses that are being utilized across the department and be able to consolidate those into enterprise buys, for example, right? What are the advantages to that? From a code base perspective, what kind of deployments are we making? How can we create code repositories, leverage the projects that are going on from an enterprise level, share that across the USDA and federal community? Because work that's being done in one community can be easier or faster or cheaper to do that if we share it across the broader community. A vendor that's doing something in one place may be quicker, faster, stronger in one area, can partner with another vendor in another area. We're going to leverage that data, that work that's being done, and broadcast it, communicate it, share it, so that we generate those partnerships across pools, across vendors, across our customers as much as possible. That's one thing that makes Stratus dynamic. And so over the course of gathering that data, maturing those partnerships, maturing our communication between that triad of customers, our vendor partners, and the OCIO community, we're going to be furthering our efficiency through this program.
All right, thanks. As a follow-up to that, Frank or Troy, could you talk through maybe some of the pain points that a mission would have that might be resolved by this kind of data collection and analysis that Grundy's talking about happening in the future?
Oh, man, this is a great question. I will start by looking at a program like Stratus offers so many different outlets for us as a program office. One of the best things that it allows is quicker market research, as I mentioned. You know, when we're looking to go ahead and set up a new system, we generally have some concept or idea of what we're looking for, but the government doesn't always know exactly what it needs or how to best achieve these goals. With the Stratus program, it allows us a quicker, more efficient way to do some of that entry-level market research to find out best of breed. So that right off the bat is extremely helpful. Then when you get down to the contracting process, you know, I don't get in my background a lot, but I used to work with the contracting team here within USDA and have a great relationship with them. But I know the painstaking process that it takes to go through the contracting process. And what the Stratus vehicle is going to allow us to do is speed up and be much more efficient in handling a lot of the contracting processes that we've had to go through within the past. You know, when we have these cloud services that are available directly through a BOA, that we can tap into very quickly and efficiently. When we can right size different cloud services quickly and efficiently, as compared to being on a long-term fixed price model. These are some of the real advantages to the government as we move forward. So, Troy.
Well, keep the microphone because the next question's for you. So I would like, since Troy was involved very early in this process through the Cloud Working Group, if you could talk a little bit about how leveraging the Cloud Working Group as a community of practice benefited the initial development of requirements for this contracting vehicle.
Sure. So, you know, within USDA, the Office of the Chief Information Officer and their activity centers, you know, their focus is primarily on providing enterprise services, also governance and other things. And then you've got the mission area IT, and their focus is on providing the applications and systems for the agencies to carry out their mission. So really kind of two distinct focuses. So, you know, the initial look at from the OCIO perspective, whenever the team was first working on it, they kind of came up with some stuff and they presented it to Cloud Working Group and said, this is what we're working on right now. And a lot of us from the missionaries looked at it and said, you know, you're missing a few use cases that we really rely on, because across the mission areas, there's a lot of diversity in how we approach things. Some of us use a lot of staff augmentation to be able to achieve some of our goals. Some of us do a lot of firm fixed price. Some of us use a lot of large businesses, some smalls. So we looked at all these different things, and we went from the original kind of presentation there that had about 3 kind of different use cases that they wanted to cover. By the time we were done and they presented again, they had 9 different use cases. And so these are all the things that we ended up fleshing out further that ended up becoming the requirements that came into Stratus, so that by the time we were done, it really did meet all the needs across USDA, from the missionaries to the OCIO activity centers, as well as from the smaller and to the larger groups.
So the last question before we move on to, oh, Fernando, go ahead and add it.
I just want to add a point regarding the data collection that Grant is talking about. This is the one point that gets me really excited. We're going to be able to see pricing differences. We're going to be able to see competition, right? We're going to start collecting all of the data, be able to see what prices we're getting from different vendors, who's giving us the best deal, you know, what is the difference, you know, trying to understand the whys and trying to see how we can, you know, be more cost effective. So, you know, for some of you that are aware, because we know we've been talking to some of you through the Stratus PMO, those few of you that have been getting awards, right? You know that right now we're doing manual submissions of the data, but all of that will be done through APIs. And as all this data starts coming in, all those variables will become very apparent to us, not only the ones that Randy's talking about, but the pricing will be another thing that we'll be focusing on. Just want to put it out there. Thank you.
I just want to add something to that, there is a lot of focus on price and cost. We always want to do that. But I also want to say that one of the things, that some of the flexibility of this, when we're looking at commodity IT, we can look at, hey, a lot of people can do that and we want the lowest cost. When we're doing something that's very specific to a mission, we want someone to help us develop an application or integrate applications. Cost may not be the #1 factor. We may look at a best value determination and say, we really want to look at someone who's had experience doing this before, either within USDA or with another federal agency that's done that. And so cost is still a factor, but it's not always the first factor. So these are some of the flexibilities that we have, depending on what you want to focus on more.
Absolutely.
Okay, so as the last question, before we go to the question and answer period, it's an open question to anyone on the panel. Does anyone have any specific use cases that we're targeting for this vehicle in the future that we could talk through as a real example?
Use case.
Like things that we're planning to use Stratus to enable.
So in the remission area, we have switched over all of our cloud accounts to the Stratus program. We're really happy with the cost savings that we're seeing. And the switchover was rather easy and painless, so we're really happy about that. As far as in the future, I do anticipate that we will end up seeing in the future most of our service contracts, for whether it be application development, integration, things like that, we will definitely be targeting Stratus first. And there will have to be like probably a really good reason why we would want to go to a different vehicle or something like that. We do see that that will likely be the case in the future, because there is a lot of flexibility, a lot of great vendors and both of the restricted and unrestricted pool. So we see that that would probably be pretty much our default option. And then we'd have to see if there's a really good reason to go anywhere else.
For OCFO, we do have a couple of large objectives coming up in the future. I believe many people are familiar with the National Finance Center's looking at some modernization initiatives. So Stratus will be heavily involved within that project. Again, OCFO does have its own cloud. At some point in the future, we will be transitioning our cloud as well. So I would expect Stratus to be heavily involved in that as well.
DISC is pretty much putting everything that we're renewing onto Stratus.
All right, so that concludes the prepared questions. We have an opportunity for any questions from the audience.
Got a mic here. We've got a lot of people online, so we need the mic. What happened? Everybody's shy now. Oh, okay. Here you go.
Thank you. So my question is forecasting and pipeline, right? So one of the things that we were awarded, my company was awarded a contract back early this year. And we've seen some RFI activity and started to see some of that happen over the summer. But forecasting and pipeline, will there be a tool available to sort of see what is coming down the pipe for Stratus, like other vehicles that are out there?
Sure.
I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I don't know if someone from, POD wants to, give me a hand on this one. I will tell you that we are working on it. I will tell you that we are working with our customers, collecting all the items that they are forecasting and they're buying. I can tell you there's quite a bit of mission areas that we have done that data collection, and we are working with POD for them to be able to post it. And that's the part that, that Emily will probably be addressing if she can take it from there.
Hi, I'm Emily Strunk. I'm the contracting officer for Pool 2, so it's nice to meet you. I'm so glad to meet people in person that I've been communicating with via email. I can answer the pipeline forecast. So we did do an RFI, which most of you guys or all of you have seen. We did an RFI for that to get input. The outcome of that is still to be determined. We're figuring out the best process that would be both beneficial to us and beneficial to you guys. One of the problems that we're running into is that we do have the flexibility of decentralized ordering. So it is a little bit difficult to forecast out requirements for all of the mission areas because we may not have them, we may not see them yet. So we are working on that. We are also working on an annual forecast that we will do. So you will likely be seeing that here shortly. We are collecting information like Fernando said. We are collecting information now for our annual forecast, so you guys will be seeing that shortly. But in terms of doing some sort of pipeline, we have not figured out how to work out the kinks, what that looks like, how that will be beneficial to both. But we are still looking at doing something like that if we can. Otherwise, we will be doing the annual forecast.
One thing that I would like to bring up is in an effort, a desire to be proactive for all of the Pool 3 vendors that are here. We have, through the Stratus PMO office, we have emailed a list. You should all have received an inventory of all the software that the USDA can potentially purchase. And the intent of sending that out was a couple of weeks ago was for all the vendors to establish agreements with OEM and manufacturers and be ready to be able to provide the software in case you get an award. So that could also be considered as, to some degree, as a, forecast. We're letting you know everything that is potentially could be procured through Pool 3. So, we will figure this out. Like Emily said, we are working through it, but also want to acknowledge that we're reaching out to the community and letting you all know, what's coming.
Shameless plug for how to get in touch with you.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
What's that?
Do you want to put a shameless plug in for how to get in touch with you?
Well, it's Stratus, if that's what you get. And any questions you have regarding, you can email us at stratus@usda.gov, right?
Okay, one more. Sandy, make it count.
Really? Hi, Sandy Mestry with Anakim Consulting. As you are out there developing the requirements and better understanding, what the possibilities, use cases, when you are reaching out to the Stratus primes, is it going to be that you're going to be doing RFIs to both small and large? How are you looking at the requirements and identifying who fits best?
That's another one that I will pass down to POD. But I would tell you that the initial answer will be depends.
Everyone loves when the answer is it depends.
I think, and that's a great question, because we will work with our POD partnerships, and I can only speak for myself. Every mission area is going to be different, but we'll work with our POD partners. We'll go ahead and identify what it is that we're looking to do. As I mentioned, Stratus is going to be a great tool for market research. So what I would imagine is going ahead and performing some RFIs directly through Stratus as an escalated and expeditious way to go ahead and do it. Now, whether we do it just small or large is really going to be dependent. I mean, I can be very honest that USDA is a small first. So we are going to look to go small business first, almost always. But depending upon the technology and what is necessary, smalls might not always be able to do it. So that will come into play with large businesses as well.
Would it be possible for Emily to?
And I would just say from a Stratus program office standpoint, from a DISC standpoint, it's always been our stance. And from a DPA standpoint, we always allow the customer to determine their acquisition strategy. So whether they want to go restricted or unrestricted, that's their determination of how they're going to work with POD to determine their acquisition strategy.
Emily, you look like you really need to
Yeah,
weigh
can we
in.
pass the mic to Emily, please? I just want everyone to hear like the official answer, right? From the CEO.
Hello again. Frank did a good job of answering that. We do look for small businesses first. So many of our RFIs are sent out to small businesses to find out if we have capabilities within our small business pool first. If we don't, then we would send them out to the unrestricted pool as well. But typically, we would be looking at small businesses first. So Frank answered that correctly. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I think that concludes our panel. We want to thank everyone for attending and thank you to our panelists for providing that great information.
Round of applause for Sasha and her panel. That was fantastic. Okay, I'm going to make a deal with you. We're going to take a break, and Dave has promised that his team is going to be spending time with back there with the vendors. We are going to call you back, and I don't want to ask you 45 times. So we're going to take a little touch and go break. And for the vendors back there, don't say you do everything. Just kind of highlight some of your core capabilities. Note to self. Thank you all. All right, let's get settled. We're going to get things rolling here in 30 seconds. A nice crowd. Yeah. There you go. We're going to need a bigger stage. We got a good big panel coming up here. All right. Next from Florida. We're in Florida, Victoria.
Melbourne, Florida.
Melbourne? Yeah. I haven't been there in a long time. Cocoa Beach, that whole area there. Beautiful. But our next moderator, she'll introduce the panel, but Victoria Turley, Chief Operating Officer and Deputy Associate Chief Information Officer out of the Digital Infrastructure Services Center at U.S. Department of Agriculture. So if we can give Victoria your attention, I'm literally going to hand the mic to her.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Customer Engagement and Solutioning Panel discussion this morning. I am Victoria Turley. I am the Chief Operating Officer and Deputy ACIO for DISC. This morning, I am joined by Dave Grundy, the Director of Strategy Management and Complex Solutions, Dave Pasqualini, the Branch Chief of Customer Engagement, Casey Cook, the DISC Enterprise Architect, Brandon Sifford, Director of Security Governance, and one of our longtime DISC customers, Sam Holtzman of FEMA, who is the system owner of FEMA Pivot. So gentlemen, welcome to the panel. Let's start the discussion with Grundy. Can you give a brief history and tell us why customers want to work with DISC?
Sure.
You want to use?
I think I got it. Sure. Brief history. So I think I kind of started that off in the first panel, but in case anybody missed it. So Dave went into the wine story before about 6 years ago when we started off on the journey of what our strategy was going to be with the initial launch of coming up with a multi-cloud, multi-vendor solution. Previously, we were on a single-threaded contract through Department of Interior that was through a single cloud solutions provider. And what we were doing was we had to go through multiple chains of fee-for-service program that didn't really give us the administration component that we liked, that we had control to be able to service our mission areas directly and actually cater to the needs of our mission areas. It also didn't give us the visibility that we needed at an enterprise level to fully understand how our customers were using the contract in order to be able to better serve them in terms of administratively, what kind of fees were they paying, what kind of usage were they seeing, how, what kind of licenses they were seeing, et cetera. And so what we wanted to do was focus on how they were buying. And so what we did was we started having conversations with our customers. And what we did was we started doing market research across the other contract vehicles that were out in the market space. And this started about 2 years ago. And we just started collaborating, and Jason Kuhl's team within POD was fantastic to work with. We got a contract together to actually help us with the acquisition strategy for the contract. And what we really started to put some thought and developing kind of a nuanced thinking of how to create a dynamic vehicle. Sorry, I'm not too far away. I'm normally way too loud, so I didn't want to overbear you guys. And so what we did was we just started with, having expectations of, we wanted to create something that was fast and cheaper, but we also wanted to create something that our customers really wanted. We started a CWG, a cloud working group, and we started to involve them, our customers, in the design and planning and ask them what they wanted to see in a cloud vehicle. And we started to go to DOD and other organizations and ask them, when they established a cloud vehicle, what would they have done differently as a result of that? And how could they make it work better for them? And so we really started to frame up what the differences were going to be, and as we prepared this model and as we thought about this model. So that was some of the history that we did.
Thanks, Dave. Dave Pasqualini. How do you support customers, and can you describe your customer support engagement model and the organization?
Sure. The model we use is loosely based on Shipley model. So those of you that do business development, obviously a lot here, understand the basics of how the Shipley model works. We use the same terms as industry leads, opportunities, and also assess those opportunities, assess risk against them, score them against different criteria. But basically how it works is our government customers come to us or are brought to us through introduction, through a lead. So in developing new business or follow-on business, we take a lead, we convert the lead to an opportunity, then we begin to develop requirements with the customer. And this customer in this case is either a federal customer or a contractor that's represented as a has federal representation. Because we're really working with the federal agencies or the offices, agencies in support of USDA or other agencies. So we have to have federal buy-in or federal working with contractors to bring these leads to us. We start developing those business requirements with our customers. At any given time, we have 60 to upwards to 100 active opportunities we're working. Just like y'all's pipeline, things sometimes develop fast, sometimes things stall, sometimes things are canceled or drop off for certain reasons. We're doing the same thing with our customers. As we develop those requirements, we begin to start looking at more in depth on the technical side. We work with our counterparts in solution architecture, solution engineering to help define and technical requirements. Then we start determining through a scoring system the risk of that opportunity, maturing it through solutioning, and then working through pricing. Procurement strategy for the opportunities that develop are, my team doesn't develop the procurement strategy, but has input into it. That input is provided by other groups too. So we're trying to find a lot of, obviously go to Stratus. And another key thing is we look at our lines of business. What services do we deliver at DISC? What's in our service catalog? Do we actually deliver the thing? Do we actually support the software that the customer is requesting, if that? And then as the opportunities mature, again, just similar to business, we're looking at how complex the solution is. So my team will continue to work more of our simple or direct solutioning, where we're really working with one line of business, one of our DISC lines of business. In layman's terms, less complicated solutions. But as things evolve in requirements, you start seeing some of our opportunities are become multiple lines of business, and that's where we turn over to our solutions architect for complex solutioning. And you want to talk to some of that?
Yeah, so within DISC, we call a complex solutions when it crosses multiple lines of business. So using the kind of context for everybody here, with Stratus, that would be an example where you have pools 1, 2, and 3 into a single solution. It's pretty common, you guys do this a lot, but from a USDA perspective, what we want to do is approach it from an enterprise, buy our cloud through our vehicle and maximize USDA's value to the department and to our customers. And then we use pools 2 and 3 to help us augment that, to bring in experts and innovation from the folks here today and folks online. Thank you all for attending. So that's one of the ideas, is we take that and we look at those options, help come up with a solution that we can get out to industry to help us innovate. And we take that experience and that kind of knowledge of the different use cases and run it through and have industry help us drive those pieces. As you heard Don talk about generative AI earlier and other things like that. Those are things that we're trying to do so we can approach it from an enterprise, test it out in an incubation, and then develop it, move it into the enterprise so we can get value and scale to our mission area partners. And when we're doing that, we take a lot of feedback from the USDA Cloud Working Group that Grundy mentioned. On average, we meet once a month. We have around 96 folks from across the department. So we hear about the different trends. USDA as a whole is moving from IaaS and hardware more towards SaaS in the future, right? That's like an evolution, and that's what our goal is. And that's why these pools are all established this way, so we can evaluate and move through those and move up the stack so we can focus more and more on the business enablement and less on the drudgery of managing our own solutions, move the mission area enablement, right? The mission areas run the programs and they're the ones that deliver those. And we're here to help them kind of get through that. We use different areas of enterprise, guiding principles from the Cloud Working Group, things of that nature, zero trust, these things you guys are all very familiar with, but we're trying to have a focalized approach to it. And that helps us manage from a department how we manage the people, the process, and the tooling, so we can have a better idea of the skills that we need, the skills we need to be able to manage, skills we need to be able to evaluate and reach out to industry to support. And then we start talking about the technology, right? Because that's usually like the last part of the process. That's not the first step when you're going through a complex solution, but that's usually what everybody as an IT person wants to talk about. Got to talk about the value in the enterprise and how it's going to get into the organization and how it's going to fit. And that's a big focus. And that's why you heard yesterday and then today, a lot of talk about partnership. And that's what this is about, is we want to partner and deliver value to our mission area partners that are delivering to the American public. And we want to drive towards cloud native capabilities so we can get a better return on investment, reuse our code, as Grundy had said earlier in the other panel, right? We want to have this experience where someone that's on the IaaS side of the evolution starts to see where those things can get used. Someone else had success in one mission area, that should be success for another mission area that has the same use case or similar use case, even if it's 40%, 50% reuse. And that's where we start driving that enterprise value, the whole vision behind Stratus and the data we have on all these different pieces and with our enterprise cloud vendor management reporting and things of that nature. So we have the visibility and understanding of what's going on across our whole portfolio. Now it's to you.
Thanks, Casey, for covering how we would design a solution with a customer. And Sam, would you like to say, oh, just moving the mic? Okay. All right. So Brandon, can you describe USDA's approach to security and how that applies to a cloud ATO?
Sure, that's a great question, Victoria. Can you hear me? Okay, that better? All right. Yeah, I mean, from a security perspective, I mean, the overall approach that we take as an organization, you know, any system that processes, any system that stores, any system that transmits USDA data, it must go through the USDA Risk Management Framework process. And so from an overall perspective, I mean, that's the approach that we take to security. So CPOC has created the USDA RMF process, which is based on the NIST 837 guidance, risk management framework. And so we have to implement that for anything that has that transmits or processes or stores USDA data. So that's kind of a high level approach, but it's no different for cloud systems. You know, whenever a system goes through the FedRAMP process, what we've done as part of Pool 1 and Pool 3, we've partnered with SMCS to well, not only SMCS, but we've transitioned some all of the ATO work from CPOC, and so our team is building processes to give the ability to inherit controls, and that's really what this is all about. Is just being able to like build on the stacks, like Casey was talking about, and be able to inherit controls. So that's kind of the USDA process for how we do this cloud ATOs.
Thanks, Brandon.
Yep.
So Sam, last but not least, from a customer perspective, can you describe why you use DISH shared services and how that has benefited your agency?
Sure, I can definitely do that. So we've been partners with USDA for almost 10 years. I'm with the National Flood Insurance Program. When back in 2015, 2016, I was not with the program at that time. I came in 2017, but thanks, a little closer. We were working on a 40-year-old mainframe. It was in a COCO environment, and we needed to move it. And we did, the folks before me did a lot of research, and they found the USDA data center in Kansas City. And so we moved it there. And there had been
several attempts at trying to modernize and end the life of that mainframe that didn't work out. And we were looking for the next iteration to try and do that. We were picked as one of the 5 agile projects for DHS. And while we were moving the mainframe to Kansas City, we discovered that they had software development capabilities. And we discovered that we worked really well with them. So we started partnering with them. And for the last 10 years, we've been on a journey together where we've done a lot of amazing things. So in 2019, with their partnership and their development teams, the NFIP's pivot system took over for the mainframe, finally. We were on time, under budget, meeting our milestones. Previous to that, we could not tell you how many claims were coming in during a disaster for 30 days to 45 days because of the mainframe. With Pivot, we can do that in seconds. We then started to work on a 40-year-old rating calculation, and we worked with USDA to replace that to give a better value of our cost for flood insurance. So that was another major milestone. And then we said, well, we're not done yet. We've decided that we want to move out of the data center into the cloud. And so we partnered again with them, and we helped build out a FEMA enterprise environment in Google with their assistance. I think we started it in February of 2022. And with their help, we built it and got it ATO'd by August, which is a pretty incredible timeline from start to finish with an ATO. And then they assisted us moving our system into Google. So I think we started that work in March of 2022, and by January 23rd of 2023, we were live in Google. And through their efforts, being in Google, we've cut our hosting in half. And we continue to partner with them. We use services for Akamai, which is the best money I spend, or we spend. And we have DevOps engineers that really help our program. And now they're helping with other facets of our program. So this is really a long time partnership for us. It's just a continuation of the work we've been doing together.
Thank you. So at this point, we'll turn it over to the floor for any questions you might have.
AV guy took a break. Okay, questions? We're back on track. There we go.
This is Sridhar Chanamulu, Vinces Information Technology, Stratus Pool 3 awardee. So I have a question for Brandon. How are you using security or SOC operations on the Pool 3?
So, say that again.
SOC operations.
So I mean, for Pool 3 vendors, they've already gone through okay, sorry. Pool 3 vendors, I mean, they've already gone through the USD through the FedRAMP process. And so, part of the SOC operations is implementing those controls from a FedRAMP perspective. And we take that as a USDA, and we build on those to ensure that USDA requirements are met also whenever those controls are implemented. Is that?
No, you are telling how to implement it. I'm not talking about that. So I'm only talking about how are you positioning yourself to put on pool 3?
So when, are you talking about when a vendor, decides they want to,
Yes, if one of your client who are it's within the USDA decides they want to buy some security operations or security products, it's a SaaS offering.
Let me try and rephrase your question to make sure we're getting it right. You're asking how would a security tool get procured through pool 3?
Correct. I mean, I just gave a SOC operations.
So SOC operations labor would be pool 2. SOC operations software as a service, something of that nature would be a pool 3. And that's where, according to DISC policy and USDA policy, as well as, and FedRAMP compliance, we would look at FedRAMP tools and then things that have a FISMA ATO, and then things that need to be sponsored for one of those two things in that order of precedence based on business requirements that would be driven, and then it would be proposed through an RFI out to pool 3.
Great. Next question. Okay. I'm gonna get my steps in today.
Hello, my name is Kim Hamoka and I work with Coney Government Services, and we are on the BOA for Pool 2 in the restricted pool. My question is, am I too loud? I feel like I'm too loud. Okay.
Just right.
My question is, leaning on the FEMA story. There are so many government agencies out there that would like access to something like Stratus. How can we as vendors help bring those agencies and departments to Stratus?
Great question.
Thank you.
stratus@usda.gov is the email address to send those customers towards us, and we will help route them through our customer engagement team.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a great question.
So yeah, the vendors can bring their Fed customers to us, right? So like through the email groups that we provided, we have a web to lead form for all the USDA folks that have Active Directory access, so you can do it through there. But generally, the first question, we're going to ask you the basic questions, but somebody behind the contractor group needs to be brought forward with us. It's just going to clear that up, because our job is to get the requirements and the efforts codified with your government sponsors so that we can fund an agency agreement and give them a customer estimate narrative, a narrative document that lays out the solution with a pricing. So yes, you can bring those to us through those vehicles, and we'll work them just like standard lead and with converting them to opportunities.
All right, we have another question over there.
Hey, thanks very much for the briefing. Just a quick, John Taylor with Cloudera. Question, when you're moving in the complex solutioning from infrastructure to either a platform or software, can you talk about some of the unintended consequences or friction points with getting that data into those systems? Thank you.
Yeah, it really depends on kind of the solution and how it's not locked in a negative way, but how it's within a system. And then we go through different phases of capabilities using Cloudera, since that's what you mentioned. Generally, it would be like a Parquet format or something, and we would work with that and whatever the other side of that is, and kind of how we're going to transition it and move it. Quite honestly, one of the things that folks don't consider is the quantum of data that has to be moved. And then we work with our USDA net partners for inside USDA or our other enterprise carriers to transition that data. That was something we struggled greatly with FEMA originally. It took us 5 or 6 months, yeah, to move 40 terabytes because of the amount of data, and it was constantly being changed because Pivot was running actively. So it took time, and we had to work through that and meet the business requirements, as well as some different complexities. At times we were able to burst network traffic when USDA was on downtime. Like when the network traffic dipped, our enterprise networking service was able to allow us to throttle up. We were getting high bandwidth, but we had to be very mindful to not impact the rest of the department on that egress as an example. And then we had to, data formatting and transition is very specific to solutions that are involved.
I want to go back to the question before about the intake process or how you bring customers in, because I think it's a gap that probably was my responsibility to address earlier. But I think it's important for you all to hear whether you're a customer or whether you're a vendor as well, so you know what to expect as well. So you've heard from Dave, you've heard from other panels about the DISC operating model, and I think that it's important to understand that, because to manage expectations, we are set up similar to your business development models. Dave mentioned that before. So we have an intake process. So as whether any customer, whether it's USDA or whether it's non-USDA, can come to us and start an opportunity process. And even if that's just a simple license procurement, if it is working with one of our lines of business, so it's a Salesforce solution, which we would call a direct solution, or it's a mainframe hosting solution with our hosting team and Jeff Blanch's team, or whether it's an app dev project through Simone Reese. Those come directly to us. We put them in our CRM. We manage through our customer engagement office with Dave Pascalini, and they get qualified and they get turned directly over to them to start working with you directly and start developing that solution and working with Fernando, if need be, on the Stratus procurements. So that's how they mature through our operating model. It goes from engage, plan, execute to sustain, and that's kind of our DOM model. And so that's the engagement process. The complex solutions process fills out those solutions and develops those solutions across multiple lines of business, multiple Stratus procurements across multiple pools, multiple integrators potentially. And so thus the complex solutions process, which can be more complex, but more time required, and it's going to require more grace, more administration in order to be able to process. And we've got a lot of those in the pipeline right now because it is qualifying the best solution. It's not getting a solution, it's getting the right solution, which is what we're working with our lines of business and the technical architects that are familiar with those hosting and application and SaaS platforms, architects in those specific areas that are working with your teams to evaluate the solutions that are out there on with their customers jointly to say, what are you looking for? What's success look like for those business objectives that you're trying to achieve? That's what goes into the evaluation process and in developing those RFPs to put out on Stratus. So that's what I wanted to highlight in terms of what that process looks like to get these orders out onto the street within Stratus.
More questions?
Thanks, Tom. Thanks to our panelists, and thanks for the audience giving us your time this morning. And please make sure to go to the Meet the Contracting Officers sessions. I think you're going to really benefit from those. Thank you.
What's the drink on my coffee?
Thank you, Victoria. That was a great panel. Enjoyed it. Okay. If I can advance the slide. Our next moderator's coming up, Eric Bubar. We got the panel, can roll right up here, the entire panel. I know they've been huddling up on the side. And Eric is Stratus acquisition subject matter expert. right, knock that. Yeah, call them up. Yeah, just call them up. Uh-oh, hang on. We'll just trade. I think, yeah, you just.
There we
hang on.
go.
There you
All
go.
right, now we're good. Good morning, good morning. So I'm Eric Bubar, part of a support team that's been helping DISC and the procurement folks at USDA on the Stratus effort for a while now. And so I would like to get our panel up here and introduce them, and then we'll start talking about some procurement questions. So first, yes, Emily Strunk is the contracting officer for Pool 2, and she's answered a few questions already, so you might be familiar with her. We have Jason Cool, the Chief of the Acquisition Program Management Division in the USDA Procurement Operations Division. We have Christine Wallace, the Pool 3 Contracting Officer. And we have Charles Freeman, the Pool 1 Contracting Officer. All right, everybody good? Good?
Test.
Perfect. All good. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here. This is a great day. We are super excited. Stratus is a incredible program and vehicle, and it's able to really bring some awesome things to USDA. And what has happened over the last year or two, or more than that really, and what you've heard about so far is really incredible. The folks up here on the table from procurement and everyone really at USDA that's been involved with this has been phenomenal to get to this point, right? And I've really had a willingness to have open conversations about any kind of ideas that we've thrown at them or that have just come up. And so they should be commended for that. That does not happen at everywhere you go, and we would not be here without that kind of open mind and willingness to really do some interesting things here. All right, so we'll run through some questions here, talking about procurement pipeline and other things happening with Stratus procurement. And we'll have time at the end for audience Q&A. So come with your questions. As the first two questions that the audience threw out on the first panel were something we were going to talk about. So we have a popular topic here and a popular panel. So I'll skip over the pipeline question for the moment because Emily already addressed that one. So Jason, I'm going to start with you. Can you talk a little bit about the Stratus on and off ramp process and really just the kind of the overall goals and timeline and thought around that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Jason Cool, Chief of the Acquisition Program Management Division. I'm going to give a little bit of history here because we started on Stratus about a year and a half ago. And it was all about the customer. What can we do for the missionary? We didn't want to just replace a contract or a series of contracts. We wanted to put a long-term solution. And in that process, we talked to all our mission areas, but we really looked deep into all of the vehicles we've had throughout government and especially in USDA. And what we have found is they often are not as vibrant 3 or 4 years in. They start to lose competition, or 3 or 4 people decide not to bid anymore. And so we have a history of that. And what ends up happening is solutioning goes down and prices go up and our customer service goes down. And so our solution to that for Stratus was to have a very vibrant and consistent on-ramp process. So in pools 2 and 3, it's all about getting that solution. We don't want it to dwindle off. And so the process is going to be normal, is what we're trying to get everybody to understand, that it is a regular occurrence. It is good to have competition. It is good to have solutions. It is good
to have people on the contract and bring new people on the contracts. I wouldn't say it's bad to go the other way, but I'll give you a couple of examples. What usually happens on a BPA or a BOA is you award 10, and 2 years later, only 2 are even competing. Sometimes you have people just leave because it's not competitive for them to work with the government anymore. And those folks usually will bring their chief financial officer, open up their actual accounting books because they don't want to wreck the relationship. But it's just not good business for them. They want to move on. They want to make more money someplace else. And then you're 3 years in and you got 1 person bidding or 2 and 8 that are not. And we see that over almost every single vehicle. And so to deliver to our customer base, to get Dave's view of having solutions to our customer, we put on-ramp. So how it's going to work is every year in pool 2 and 3, we're going to survey the market, survey our current, status, how people are doing, what the market's looking like. Have there been changes in the market where we need to bring on a new skill set or a new technology? And then we're going to look to vendors on ramp. And then if folks are not participating or there's a long trend of not being competitive, we'll engage with those folks to try to help them. And then we're just going to refresh the database as we go. And that's the goal. So let me make sure I hit all the talking points, because I got asked this question, by the way, about 50 times during the ACT-IAC conference last week. So I had no voice. We are looking at on-ramps already. So exactly what we said we were going to do. We're analyzing the market. We're trying to figure out the timing and how that would work for pools 2 and pool 3 in fiscal year 25. That's connected to our forecasting that you guys were talking about earlier. One key aspect that we put in there is, and if you just look at pool 2, very simple, you may not have a technology specialty in a particular area. If you're a no bid, you need to contact us through that process and say you're a no bid. And that's okay. It's okay to do that. But it is just us taking data in so that everybody understands what the real answer is. If I don't have a specialty, I'm not going to bid something. I want to go after things are in my wheelhouse. And we don't want that to be we're not going to view that negatively. But we do want folks competing, because it's about solutioning. And the best solutions come when a bunch of smart people get in a room and they battle it out. Good pricing comes when a bunch of smart people in a room battle it out. So that's the purpose of what we did and why we're doing it. Let's see. Oh, this is another big topic, ceiling prices. The most widely misunderstood concept in all of government contracting. So there's no ceilings on the BOA at all. We had an estimate of what our projected spend was for 10 years, but there's no ceiling. It's not an IDIQ. There's no minimums. You're going to hit some cap and we're going to shut the vehicle down. That's not how it's designed, but we do base it on estimates. And so that's another common question. I think I've answered all the big points. And then let me just give you, as I close and move to the next topic, the actual Stratus vehicle is always going to be with Emily's team. So the vehicle itself, pool 1, pool 2, pool 3, will stay with the strategic team the whole time. They're the ones that'll do the analysis to determine on-ramp, off-ramp. And then the ordering process can be anybody throughout USDA. And a lot of that'll happen with our operations teams and all the other COs throughout.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason. Thank you for the good information. All right, so Emily, I'm going to turn to you now and would like to discuss a little bit about the Stratus acquisitions and just kind of how they work. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how Stratus can take advantage of procurement innovations and streamlining and just, you know, kind of overall thought process of what we're doing there.
Okay, thank you. So when we were putting together Stratus, we worked on a lot of tools. We put together a toolkit, not just for my team to use, but for other COs to use. So in an effort to streamline and provide consistency when placing orders, we put together a Stratus toolkit that contains templates that they could use, different various forms that they can use to kind of help them out to provide some consistency when you see the RFQs coming out. In order for mission area COs to place orders against the BOAs, they attend DPA training, so Delegated Procurement Authority training with myself. At that training, we show them where the toolbox is. We show them where all of those documents are so they have access to that to help streamline the process. In terms of innovation, if you're familiar with the PIL or the USDA procurement innovation effort, we do encourage the use of new innovative techniques. So you guys are probably familiar with phased evaluations, down selects, interactive market research. We encourage that. We encourage the use of these tools. It of course is dependent on the CO and what they determine to be most appropriate. But we do encourage the use of those new innovations when they're purchasing through Stratus.
Excellent. Thank you, Emily. All right. I'm going to come back to Christine in a minute. Charles, I want to ask you a question here. So earlier, Casey mentioned how important the partnership of USDA Stratus and everyone in this room is. Could you talk a little bit about your expectations or just broadly expectations of USDA and its Stratus partners throughout the life of Stratus?
Yep. Thank you, Eric. Can you hear me? There we go. So at a high level, we expect ourselves to be transparent with the industry through through robust communication. There we go. We're good. All right. To help with our acquisition strategy, make sure we stay aligned with the objectives of Stratus. Just be, as Jason's already kind of stated, Stratus is a flexible vehicle that's been put in place to help USDA obtain cutting-edge cloud services, and all of our decisions and industry partners' actions should support that goal. Just be mindful that all of the awardees of Stratus now and that will be onboarded in the future are part of an exclusive club, and this is truly a partnership. So I'm going to keep saying it, but the communication piece is very key to success for everybody. Stratus has been set up for essentially everybody to succeed. Industry, you get on Stratus, you're getting business, you're making more money. They can service their customers, provide a better product, and our customers get quality service. So we just, you know, that piece is just, I cannot stress it enough. What being a good partner means. It means delivering high performance, communicating early and transparency, and helping us work through the challenges that DISC and POD may have. Then the last thing I'll say in closing is just be ready for lots of activity because demand for Stratus utilization is high and growing.
Excellent. Great. Thank you, Charles. It really is a great partnership, and the vendors on Stratus were highly vetted and are highly qualified, and there's a lot of high expectations going forward, so everyone's looking forward to it. All right, so Christine, want to ask you a little bit here. So in terms of, I have a couple questions here that we'll get into about just how does Stratus work, right? How do some of the ordering process and some of that kind of stuff. But first, Christine, could you address, are there any fees to use Stratus? How does that process work?
Yes, so there are only internal fees. BOA vendors don't need to be involved with the fee. It's not like, say, the GSA industrial funding fee. In most cases, the internal fees are competitive or well below other contract vehicles like GSA, NASA SOUP, or NITEC. Fees might be higher. Fees might be higher in some cases where DISC is providing customers with more than a simple access to the Stratus vehicle, like additional professional services, cloud brokering services, ECVM, platform management, or internal administrative services.
Excellent. Thank you, Christine. Sticking with you, Christine, actually, could you also speak a little bit about the intake process? I know the last panel spoke a little bit as well, but just provide a little bit of information about so our audience can understand that requirements intake process and how people are actually ordering off of Stratus.
Yes, that is something in the works. As Grundy was talking about that intake process, we are putting that information together and we're going to be sharing that with the bow holders. We're going to be sharing that with the bow holders, so stay tuned for that.
Excellent, thanks. Yes, so more information to come. And we do have ordering processes internally, and so working on getting some of that publicly available as well. So, all right, so let's do some rapid fire round of questions here, okay? And Christine, I'll stick with you for one more here. What happens when software is needed that is not commonly sold by Pool 3 vendors?
USDA is going to issue either an RFI or an RFQ to vendors. You're likely going to have to turn quickly around so you can put agreements in place for that software and then respond and let the government know if there are any hurdles or timelines that we need to be aware of.
Excellent, thank you. Rapid fire. Charles, here we go. Will there be a web portal to manage communications, RFIs, and RFQs between USDA and its Stratus partners?
Hopefully soon.
Yes, you got some applause there, so it's coming. You hear that, Fernando? All right, Jason. So you mentioned prices a little bit earlier, but as everyone knows, there are no listed prices on Pool 2 or 3. So how do we think about ensuring USDA receives market competitive pricing?
Yeah, that's another really common question because we're all used to BPAs and there's a catalog and it has a price and we all get to play the LCAT spread game, which is your favorite game and not mine at all, right? So BOAs are not set up like that. We don't have a list of LCATs or a list of this is what we sell, and we chose that purposefully. Cloud changes daily. The Amazon catalog changes hourly. Technologies that we thought were in place the day we thought of this, and then we awarded a year later, are totally different. And so the design of a BOA is that we don't have LCATs at Pool 2, and here's my list. It'll all be taken care of at the task order level. And so that competition, going back to that first question, is what it's all about. There's none of this, well, do I have this LCAT on my GSA contract? No, we don't need that because that LCAT may not even be valid in 6 months. We may have a whole new technology that is there. You just build it up, you find the talent, and you bid the talent. Same on the other side there. If you go with the software, there might be something that's new, it's cutting edge. We add it and you go bid it. And that's how we're going to maintain competitive pricing. On Pool 2, though, it's very important to understand, and we talked about RFIs and stuff, and Christine, quick responses. That's what we're going to expect. And I got a question the other day, do you read them? And I'll tell you, we got 98, I think you said. 88, and her brief to me was, here's how we're going to analyze all 88 of these in response to this to make a decision. So we are reading them. We also understand it costs money to do that, but it's a trade-off for you guys. So if we're looking at a particular section, maybe a set aside and nobody responds, then we're going to look at a different section of Stratus, that kind of a thing. And in Pool 2, it's not just LCATs. You should be expecting to see fixed price teams, capacity-based teams, LCATs, hybrids of all of those types of labor mixes. to meet the best needs of the government. And quite frankly, the best needs of you, because some of those are a lot more flexible in your substitution of labor in a fixed price capacity based team. So you should be able to gin those up quickly. And then probably the most important is the vendor management. We built ECVM into the whole program. Day one, they're in the room with us. This group is awesome. And we thought day one, how do we meet that customer need? And then once we meet the customer need, how do we measure it and get data into the hands of senior execs? And so our ECVM is going to be tracking every team, what it costs, every LCAT, what it costs, every piece of software, every SKU, what it costs. And we're going to put that in and make informed decisions. That was built into our system. So I know it's rapid fire, Eric. I violated the basic definition of rapid fire and everything else, but.
Well, that's why you went last, Jason. There's no rapid fire with Jason, so. But all right, well, thank you, everyone. So I think everything that you said, a few points, right? Like the partnership, the flexibility, the communication, right? We might not be an RFI every single time. We know there's benefits and costs there. Open lines of communication for ideas of how to best work going forward. We had the RFI on the pipeline and we understood, kind of absorbed all of the input there. So multiple folks have mentioned Stratus at USDA.gov, right? That is our open line of communication. Before we do a quick audience Q&A, anything else anyone wants to throw out their final statement? Good. Okay, we do have a few minutes for questions. So if anybody has anything, yes, right in the front.
All right. You always have great questions.
Hi, Sandy Mestry with Anakim. Can we go back a little bit about the on-ramping? And for new companies, you mentioned that you're already starting and going through that process. Can you kind of describe what that looks like in timing and how you're going to reach out to industry?
So we haven't started an on-ramp. We've started the analysis for an on-ramp. So how it'll happen is we're going to survey the market at least annually, is the way we wrote it. And often more than that, because really you got to stay up on this industry. It is moving quick. And based on that analysis, then we'll make a decision. So we've started that analysis piece. It'll look annually. I think we'll get on a cycle where each of the pools will be an annual, and then we'll go from there. And in that, everything will be posted. They're going to be competitive. It's going to go out on SAM, and then I'll turn it over to Emily because we have a whole lot of lessons learned that we're going to share with vendors in the next phase. So talk detailed about your plans.
Okay, so like Jason said, we are starting the analysis now to determine whether or not we will do an on-ramp. I do think that it's likely we will be doing an on-ramp in the future. That information will be posted to sam.gov. We are using lessons learned from the original RFQ evaluation process to inform the new on-ramping process. We are looking at ways to make it a little bit quicker so we can do them at least annually. We can't spend, I can't spend 6 months every year doing an on-ramp for this. So we are taking lessons learned from the first RFQ and evaluation process to inform this next on-ramp. So if you have anybody that is interested, again, the Stratus email box, please send them there because we are interested in reaching out to as many folks as would be interested in supporting Stratus.
More questions? Got one back here. Excuse me.
Hi, good morning. Khalid with Acquia Nava. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the timeline for acquisitions,
how the RFI to RFP, RFQ process is going to look.
So, sorry. It really depends on what the requirement is, the timeline, what that looks like, market research. So it really depends. I mean, speed is of course of the essence, but we also don't want to cut corners. We want to make sure that we do the best that we can for our customers. So the timeline is really depending on the requirement and evaluation process for that. I mean, we can do licensing, purchasing pretty quickly, but if it's a more complex requirement, then we want to take our time and make sure that we do that right.
And let me add just a little bit. She talked about all the templates and playbooks and all that. And that's to make it go quicker. It's also to streamline what you guys see in industry. Oftentimes I get a lot of questions, and the biggest is, why does that government agency do this? Why can't they do it like POD? And everybody's got their own version. We didn't want that for you guys. We want you guys to be nimble and quick, and that's why we drove our templates. So your solicitation should come out looking very similar. That's the goal. That way you can be quicker in response. The way you're going to submit pricing is formatted. It's not made up every single time. That's because our ECVM function is connected to that. So it depends, but it's designed to go a lot quicker than the normal process is what we're hoping. And so far we're seeing pretty good responses on how quick that's happening. But be ready. And if you're in pool 3, you better be responding quick, right? It's because I can do it on soup in a week, right? If I can do it there, I should be able to do it here in a week. I should be able to add things on, maybe not at the speed IT as Dave keeps saying, but pretty close. That's what we're designed to do, and it'll get quicker as we go.
Question over here. Hang on.
Hi, Scott Adamson with CWG. My question is, if there's ever a situation where the USDA wants a solution that involves components from Pool 2 and Pool 3, would it be expected that the vendors from each company, one in Pool 2, one in Pool 3, are communicating with each other about a solution, or that they kind of respond separately, instead of responding in tandem to that comprehensive solution?
Okay, so
So if we have a requirement that crosses the different pools, it really, and I hate to do this, it depends on the requirement. We do expect for a Pool 3 task order and as well as a Pool 2 task order. It of course would be helpful, desirable if those companies work together, but we can do each of those purchases separately. But we would have to, of course, work with each vendor individually to do something like that.
Do you guys want to talk from the use case standpoint? Okay, yeah.
Great question, and I think the answer is absolutely yes. We don't want, of course, we don't want anyone to violate the FAR or any kind of acquisition regulation. But for Stratus, the question that's dominated from day one is how customers buy. How can we serve customers? And customers often get that integrator, and then they may determine a SaaS solution, or they may have one in mind. And so I think absolutely we would think that this is an ecosystem we're creating here today, and that interaction I think is just natural. It's what's in the best interest of the customer. And I don't think this panel can keep me honest, but I don't think in most cases there's any kind of FAR violation. So I think we want what's best for the customer. We want to be compliant, but I think the answer in most cases would be absolutely yes.
More questions? Hang on. Yeah.
thanks for the time, John Tabler with Cloudera. I think this question is more for Christine. Is there a reason that it's only SaaS providers, or are you considering adding PaaS providers, platform as a service? Thank you.
That's currently what is in scope. I've had several questions already today about that. So we're going to take a close look at anything else, but we do need to stay within the scope of what was in the PWS as written right now.
So little background here, I think answers a little bit more of your question. When we put it together, we started with the customer, as I said earlier. And it was about meeting their needs. And then you gotta sit back and you gotta go, huh, the USDA, as my boss told me a long time ago, my first day on the job, is you gotta get to know the people in this organization. This organization is vast, she would say. And she's right. 29 agencies or 19 or 50, depending on how you count them. They're every county in America. They're spread out. And so often we will put a contract together and we'll say, hey, let's replace a contract. And that's easy. Anybody can do that. The hard part is to connect that vehicle structure so that it meets our needs. And that's why Stratus is set up the way that it's set up. And so the pool structure, the way we put it together, was to meet the USDA mission area need. And so at the time, it was a SaaS pool. And we wanted hardware paths and stuff to be in pool 1. Pool 2 was your labor, all your services, and then pool 3 was your software as a service. So we've already had a question about the blending of pool 2 and 3. So here's how we looked at it. We built 10 different use cases. And every single time we talked about a use case, almost, it was, yep, that works, but there might be something else, right? And that is the secret of Stratus. That there might be something else is how we built it, so that it could be adaptive, it can move, it's malleable to meet the needs. So a little more at your question is really that it's built a certain way for a certain reason to meet our mission area that is very unique to USDA, very unique to our structure. It's patterned directly to that, but it also has the ability for Dave and our team to get together with our executive leadership over here and say, let's change the direction a little bit. Let's adapt to what's on the ground. I think that gets a little bit more. So we're looking at everything, like Christine said. Absolutely, we want to be up on the market and at the front end of it. But having that background, I think, is important on why we set it up the way that we did and what we're trying to get out of it.
Yeah, these are great questions. I mean, Stratus, I'm the procurement nerd in the room, and Stratus is the most flexible contract I've ever seen, maybe that the government has right now. And we've set it up that way to find a way to yes on a lot of these questions. So great questions. Keep them coming. If things come up after this, stratus@usda.gov. This group has been phenomenal in finding a way to get things done. So any other?
Yep. Maybe one more question. All right.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panelists. And also, right after lunch, there's a meet and greet for the COs in one of the breakout sessions. So be sure to check that out as well. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we're going to get the last panel before lunch going. If everybody can start getting to their seats. We have Carmen Francis, who's going to moderate our next panel. She's at the OCIO. A DISC. She's a contractor for the Enterprise Cloud Vendor Management, Cloud Acquisition, U.S. Department of Agriculture. Folks, if we can get to our seats, we want to get things rolling here so we can get lunch. Okay? Everybody's having a great time, but we need to get to our seats. How many ex-USDA people are here? There we go. We got Amanda. We got Chad Sheridan, who's Associate CIO. Of course, we have Chris again. I guess I was a contractor here 30 some years ago. Anyway, let's go ahead, Carmen. Let's get things rolling.
Good morning. Good morning. Wonderful. This session, we're going to talk about enterprise buying, service delivery management, and enterprise vendor management. I am Carmen Francis, and I am the program director of the Enterprise Cloud Vendor Management Program. And we have on our wonderful panel here a great variety of perspectives and topics. So first we have Wes Manning. He is the Service Delivery Modernization Program Manager. We have Mr. Dave Grundy, you all already know him, Strategy Management and Complex Solutions Division Director, the most popular speaker of the day. And Deb Chaudhry, she is the Digital Services Center Division, OCIO DISC Director. Dave Gatliff is the Director of Financial Operations for OCIO DISC. We have a mission area, Lauren Hilzebeck, Director, Branch Chief, Application Services, Forest Service. And we are ready to get started with our first question. To Mr. Grundy, can you provide us an overview of how DISC is improving service delivery and leveraging buyer power for the enterprise, and provide us with some of the context that created the Stratus program?
Sure. So I've been told to get closer to the microphone in case nobody's heard me yet. So when it comes to purchasing power, we've talked a lot today about our enterprise cloud vendor management tool set. So as we are collecting data, as we create awards on contract, we are collecting a lot of data that comes in. So as we are collecting that data, what we are doing is analyzing how our customers are buying on Stratus and what they are buying. And so in many cases, with products, especially on Pool 1 and on Pool 3, we're able to analyze that usage and be able to create trending and analyze what customers are buying. So what we want to do is be able to turn that into buying wisely and take opportunities to create enterprise buys. What we want to do is analyze where customers are buying similar products and what they are buying in. Like, how much are we investing in products that are used to create similar applications or that are using similar idea sets? Can we take that knowledge and be able to pair those programs together to share ideas and concepts and get collaboration flowing? To generate partnerships? Can we get the vendors to collaborate on potential solutions and those mindsets? That creates idea streams and workflows. Can we get code bases generated as a result of that work? So this is the idea and the concept that extends beyond just sharing price points, the traditional value streams of a traditional contract. Yes, of course, we are able to see and compare price points, but we want to extend beyond that because that's just one layer deep. We want to go multiple layers deep. And so from a service delivery standpoint, if we're able, as DISC, when we say vendor management, we want to look beyond just being kind of the traditional core and saying, okay, we're going to meet our service level objectives or what's in the traditional contract. What we want to do is be proactive and start saying, what are our vendors doing? What are our customers doing? And how are they using these contracts? And so we can leverage that service delivery model and be kind of proactive in terms of what we can obtain and be able to extend our services beyond that so we can create enterprise models that scale and create enterprise solutions into the future. So we're thinking about what our services are going to be instead of what they are or what they have been in the past.
Excellent. And this is a great segue into services modernization. Program Manager Wes is going to continue on that thought and address how we understand that OICO is maturing service delivery modernization capabilities. Can you tell us more of what that means for the current OCIO customers and Stratus customers?
Sure, thank you. So service delivery modernization is an effort that's been around for a few years now, and essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to modernize our ITSM, ITOM capabilities. We've since we just finished rebranding it, and we're going to call it Serve USDA. We felt that that branding was appropriate for what we're trying to accomplish. It's really focused on enabling folks to utilize this capability for some tier 0 type services, as far as seeking other delivery methods when it comes to service requests. This platform is going to help them achieve that as well. So Serve USDA is going to be a reliable, scalable, transparent platform that is going to be focused on improving customer service and also improving operational readiness. So our plan is to, once we get this effort up and going, is to be able to scale out, working with the Digital Services Center, obviously working under the Pool 2 contract, seeking those resources that can help us modernize our capabilities moving forward. For FY25, beginning in FY25, our initial scope is the OCIO service centers. However, we do have on the roadmap the ability to reach out to other mission areas and other entities within OCIO and bring those service desk and ITSM capabilities into the fold. So all in all, how we're looking to help customers is to give them a platform that is going to be in a single pane of glass. It's going to allow them to kind of operate in the same ecosystem. And for those that are moving from other platforms like Remedy and other things, if you join in or plug in, it's going to allow us to better seamlessly operate as a single controlled unit.
All right, we have from Grundy focus on data, and how modernization is a focus for DISC. And now Deb is going to talk about the SaaS arena. Can you describe your vision of how DSC will expand enterprise SaaS offerings and what Stratus means for the development of that vision?
Yeah, absolutely. So for enterprise SaaS, we've already been taking advantage of Stratus from the time it became available to us. In fact, the very first Stratus Pool 2 solicitation was in support of one of our SaaS platforms for ServiceNow. And even right now, we have a number of solicitations that are in the pipeline that we're working with POD to get the solicitations out for procurement of services for some of our other SaaS platforms that we have. And this is going to continue as we continue expanding our SaaS offerings, as we continue working with the mission areas to build more and more enterprise applications. We do see the need for these services to continue to expand, and we will definitely be using Stratus to procure these services. I know Eric Bobar talked about flexibility in Stratus, and that flexibility is really something that's very important for us, for SaaS operations specifically. As we build these enterprise applications out, when we start out, we really don't know what the scope of services would end up to be. We could start with this very small application for one mission area, but that could expand to be a much bigger application that we build out on an enterprise level for multiple mission areas. And Stratus definitely does provide us with that flexibility to do that. Besides services, we are working very closely with the Pool 3 vendors for license procurements as well. Within SAS, we procure a lot of licenses. When I say a lot, it's really a lot of licenses. So, so as we continue buying this or figuring out more of these plugins, and it's not just for our SaaS platforms only, it's also for those third-party vendors, those plugins and tools that integrate with our SaaS platforms. And for most of the newer procurements that we are doing now, they're all definitely just going out through Stratus Pool 3. For eventually, it will all be through Stratus Pool 3 for most, if not all of our license procurements. Right now, the big bucket of licenses that we are trying to move through Stratus is our Salesforce ELA. So that is a large number of license pools that we are trying to get to Stratus. We are collaborating with our mission areas to see if there is a way to combine our buy across ServiceNow to see if we could combine all of our licenses for ServiceNow and make one big procurement as an ELA or an enterprise license agreement for ServiceNow as well. As we continue to expand, we will continue working with the mission areas. Dave Peters mentioned earlier today, the 2 words for today is going to be collaborate and partner. So we are partnering with the mission areas to figure out, especially with those who have expiring software contracts or vehicles for those procurements, to see how they can continue to leverage Stratus with their buys. And we will, and I know Dave Grundy talked about the reporting through ECVM that's going to become available to us. That's going to provide a lot of insight into what else we could combine into those enterprise license procurements. So that's definitely a path we are going to continue to follow.
Very good, thank you. So we've heard from Mr. Grundy about services delivery and Wes about the modernization efforts, and Deb with SaaS and licensing and how Stratus improves those possibilities for cost savings. Now for cost savings, we have FinOps, and we are going to hear from our Director of Finance, Dave. Can you speak to the greater data capabilities that Stratus is enabling for USDA and how that is going to impact FinOps?
Absolutely. Thank you, Carmen. And welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming today. I think one of the things that I wanted to talk about is my journey to FinOps. I mean, it's a new concept. It was a new word that was traveling around. And about 1.5 years ago, I wound up on the FinOps.org site and say, hey, this is really cool stuff. And one of the things that I really latched onto was this idea that FinOps proposed as kind of one of its phases, its founding organizational structures, is to have the idea of informing about what IT spend was, to optimize that IT spend, and then to operate it in an efficient manner. So it was a 3-step process as you move forward. And I also like the idea that they embrace this concept of crawl, walk, run, because there are aspects of FinOps where we are very much crawling. We are just barely moving forward on the floor. And then there are other things that we've done for a while and done quite successfully, and I'd say at least a walk, if not a slow trot. So we're making progress in our FinOps journey and partnering with our ECVM team that's building out some dashboards and capabilities for customers to know where they're just that first step to be informed about where their IT spend is. We used to get a big bulk number from our provider, and it would say, okay, you owe $1 million this month. And what did that consist of? And well, here's a PDF. You can go parse through that and you can tell maybe. But the data capabilities that we've got through our ECVM platform and the dashboards and tools that will stand up out of that are going to go a long way to providing customers with an understanding, and then holistically as USDA as a whole, the overall spend as a whole, we'll be able to understand where dollars are going and then optimize those going forward. And it's always a partnership. Dave Peters mentioned that very first thing this morning. We want to partner with our customers to show them what's there and show them the information that we're getting from the vendors, as well as to then get feedback from them to know what is valuable to you. How do you want to look at this data? So, you know, one of the steps that we're going to do is work with the Cloud Working Group, who consists of our partner agencies, other USDA customers that can come together and say, hey, we're really interested in knowing this about our cloud spend. That helps me go back to the ECVM team and say, hey guys, we need a dashboard that looks like this. So that's our steps that we're taking and the journey that we're on. And we will definitely be going through all phases of that crawl, walk, run for some time now.
Very good. Now, all of this work on service delivery, modernization, cost and spending, understanding, efficient license procurement, all of that accumulates into what we offer the mission areas. So the end of the row is the customer. And so Lauren, if you could give us, as a DISC customer, particularly of SaaS products like Salesforce and ServiceNow, can you describe why you leverage DISC offerings and how it benefits the forest service?
Sure, thank you. DISC has managed our previous Salesforce ELA, as Carmen just said, and really provided that holistic approach for Forest Service to be able to build business applications in the platform. Those benefits included a streamlined acquisition, which was very nice, and platform management, technical support, and even integration services. So we've also expanded our footprint in ServiceNow, and we're looking at how that enterprise level agreement through Stratus, similar to our Salesforce ELA, can support our deep budget cuts, which I know we're all feeling, and by leveraging those department-wide license acquisitions. So in addition, Forest Service also has a DevOps contract that provides CI/CD software suite and technical support that's expiring this year. So we're also looking into Stratus as a potential replacement. And the hope is to have those similar benefits that we're experiencing through our Salesforce ELA to be able to, well, because we're not the only agency that's needing those types of services. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you. So we have had an introduction here from a variety of aspects of the DISC organization and from our customer. Now, I want to give opportunity for you to ask questions. This is a broad topic, and given all of the various panels that you have listened to this morning, this will give you a chance to really ask a question for any of the topics, because our panel members here are very well versed on all topics around Stratus. So, opening for questions now. Thank you, panel.
Okay. Questions? Somebody wants to ask a question, I can tell. Okay, hang on. We got a customer here.
Yeah, I'd like to direct us to DISC. We currently use you for our cloud hosting and for our procurement of some of the software like Akamai, for example. Would we be able to use Stratus to continue with them and use that as our vehicle going forward?
Yes, definitely. As you continue using your existing buys, or even if you go for new products in support of cloud, for additional other third-party products, we will definitely be able to use Stratus to help you with all those procurements, either for services, licenses, or a combination of both.
More questions? All right, I knew Chad would come through. Just introduce yourself.
I'm Chad Sheridan with Net Impact Strategies. My question is around license bundling and looking at additional ELAs compared to what you got in Salesforce. Have you all done any benchmarking with other agencies that have done similar ELAs. There's been quite a few in the ServiceNow space in the last, probably even the last 6 months. Have you all been reaching out? And if not, do you need any connections with those agencies?
That's a great question, and that's exactly what we're in the middle of now. So we are working with a few of our partners, again, collaboration, partnering, to do a benchmarking exercise across certain sections of DISC. So we will be looking at that information, what other agencies have done with their ELAs, what level of support they're providing, what their offerings, as well as how they are structuring their ELA. So we are doing a benchmarking exercise where we will be getting those information. And if you think you can put us in contact with our peers, definitely that would be a great way to go. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? How are you all putting together your marketing plan to reach the rest of USDA and then extending it to other agencies?
Sure, I can take that. So we do have a Marcom team within our customer engagement branch. And so what we've done is we're creating a marketing strategy in order to go out and communicate with all of our mission area partners to be able to let them know about our, the potential for the ELA consolidation, et cetera, those types of initiatives.
Okay.
Hi, Chris Carrier from Thundercat Technology. We're a Group 3 provider. Tom mentioned bringing Stratus potentially to other agencies kind of the same way NFC and DISC do today. Are there immediate plans for doing that and making it available to other outside agencies?
Yeah, so along the same lines within our Marcom team, we don't have what I would call an outside sales approach, but we do allow our partners to come in and work with us. So I would encourage you to reach out to us, visit our USDA OCIO, and you can get in touch with DISC through that mechanism. And that's how you get in touch to find out about our services, more about Stratus. That's where you get into Stratus. That's how you find out about the services that we can provide through USDA. Yep.
Sounds like another opportunity for event in the new year.
Yep.
And you know the email address. If anyone hasn't memorized it by now, if you got an idea, where do we go? stratus@usda.com.
Okay, another question over here.
Good afternoon. My name is Connie Zhong with PulseBite. My question is that do you anticipate or do you have any challenges so far in terms of convincing the mission areas to move their applications or using Stratus?
What we found is the price benefit is a very convincing argument for our mission areas. And as some of our mission area partners have alluded to, USDA is expecting some challenging budget at times a year ahead, and they're looking for anything they can find, and Stratus is going to be a big benefit to that.
Yeah, I can speak to Pool 1, what we've already seen in Pool 1, minimum savings that we've reached from our previous cloud contract has been a minimum savings of an estimated 20% as a result. Yep.
Do we have any online questions? I forgot about our online friends. I think we've had like 200 people online for this thing. We have to build a bigger USDA to get them all in here, I think. Kim, do we have any questions online? Can we encourage that? Thank you.
Yes, and we could bring in questions from other panel if there's
here we
been
go.
those. Thank you.
First question, when are you planning to come out with a FEMA NFIP solicitation? Well, we get right into it with these online folks.
I have a feeling that I know who submitted that question. And I feel like that.
We show it again, Kim?
The FEMA NFIP solicitation question. Is that what it was, Tom?
Yeah, just this FEMA contract everybody's talking about.
Yeah, so we are actively working with FEMA, and that's an extremely large and complex solution that we are working both with the EAS team and with the EHS team across multiple pools. So that should be on time. That's the answer I'm going to give it.
Stay tuned, in other words.
On the customer's timeline, yes.
When I said we were showing it video and taping it, you were being very careful. Good for you.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to get into company names and stuff, but is it pay-as-you-go setup, basically, with a $0 order? What does that mean? Can you help? Do you understand that?
That's more aligned with Pool 1. Yeah. That's aligned with Pool 1 CSP providers.
Okay.
So yeah.
I like how you didn't put the mic in front of you, you know? Then we get in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody else here in person? We pretty much. Okay. Yeah. Here they come. Since the title of the panel is around pipeline and the goal stated earlier in the Q&A, okay. These are open ones. Will USDA FPAC opportunities be listed on Stratus? TBD. Okay. Okay. It's being worked right now as we speak, I guess. Can you expand upon the requirement to use Stratus for typical software licenses? It's not a SaaS.
Yeah, I think that we have covered that we do absolutely on Pool 3 facilitate non-ELA license procurements on Pool 3. So that is absolutely something that we facilitate.
And we have quite a few of those currently in progress. Things that are not ELA and not SaaS, but license procurements. We've done quite a few of those recently through Pool 3.
Yep, we've already made awards on Pool 3 for non-ELA licenses. The majority have been, yes.
Okay. A comment, our question and answer is being recorded. I think we're going to leave this taped and up, right? Is that cool? So we'll keep this recording for those that couldn't get to it. We'll rebroadcast it for people. And I have another question. Besides the USDA mission areas and agencies, which are the other federal government agencies that are under contract with Stratus or talking services with Stratus?
We do have non-USDA that is on Pool 1, correct? FEMA is on Pool 1. As far as other non-USDAs that are on Pool 2 and Pool 3, that's coming. Yeah, it's within our pipeline. We do have solicitations that are being worked. We have more than 60 opportunities that are in the pipeline right now that are in progress, that are being developed. Yeah.
Total of 60. How many are outside of USDA, would you say, roughly, not holding you to it? A handful, maybe?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Yep.
Another question, how do you determine if an opportunity, if it needs to go either unrestricted or restricted? How do you make which pool you're going to or whatever?
I think Emily addressed that earlier.
Okay.
Yep. It's always through small business first, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's set by POD thresholds. Yeah, right. SBA thresholds. Go ahead.
Primarily, there's a threshold of anything below 250,000, it will automatically be pushed to a small business. And I wish someone from POD is here, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the guideline that we're following.
Tom, I feel like you need to ask me like why I left Kershaw and for 8+ innings.
It's funny. All right, any more questions? I think we're gonna, okay, we got a bet.
So how will you run the evaluations in order to have the speed that you're aiming for?
Yeah, how are you gonna scale, right? Might have to let Dave answer that one.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't think we have the final answer yet, but it's something that we've already been talking about. You know, we have a deep, I think as you've hopefully seen today, we have a deep partnership internally with procurement operations. They are within the innermost part of the circle as far as the team. We met with them for actually a couple hours last night after we did the day one. And that subject came up and the process came up and criteria. And it's not the first time we've had that conversation. We recognize, you know, I've been quoted as in reference of our speed of IT. And so we are working through that and stay tuned.
Last call for questions. Okay, well, thank you for that, panel. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You all enjoy your lunch. Thank you, panel. Thank you.
Hang on, before we go to lunch, just a couple housekeeping things. We've changed a few things this afternoon, but we're gonna have a rapid, we're gonna change out some of these tables. We're gonna put chairs in for tables. Lunch is here. In the history of ATARC, we never ran out of lunch, so you don't feel like you have to rush up there to get food. We are going to have some breakouts. We figured, Dave, we may change and do the meet and greet here, just logistical management, keep everybody in this room. But then we're gonna have a breakout for industry. It's gonna be in the press room at 1 o'clock. And the government has their own thing at 1:30. But just for your purposes, we'll have to go to one room. It'll probably dissipate a little bit. But this is gonna be the last time we're all in this room, so I want Dave to come up and kind of give final comments while we have everybody here.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you, everybody. Thank you again. Just a couple of thoughts. You know, a couple things I wanted to get out of today personally is I wanted to really assess the level of engagement. We talk about partnership. I talk about partnership all the time. But I have truly seen it today. You know, some of the questions, some of the comments, you know, some of them are challenging. I don't have all of the answers today that everyone wants, but we're working towards them. And we have a tremendous pipeline in progress with you. Okay, so when we talk about the whole solutioning and pipeline process, that's not in a disk black box in a disk factory with only disk employees. It means that all of you, on some level, you know, many of you, industry is engaged at every step of the way. And so we're very excited about that. Excited about the conversations that I heard today. You know, I've heard some conversations about transparency. You know, hey, we would like it if you posted this information, whether it's RFIs, RFPs. And so those are things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about later today. We're going to look to action. And so really appreciate that feedback. It's not all rainbows and unicorns we're looking for. We sincerely want to know what we can do better to mutually serve our shared customers. And so I'm seeing that partnership. And so again, thank you. Look forward to having more of those engaging conversations this afternoon and look forward to working that pipeline with all of you as well. You've built this. This is our program. This is our collective ecosystem. So thank you, and let's finish the day strong.
Yeah. So lunch is back in the corner, and just be casual. We'll call you when you need to go back. And the folks here will be here all like during lunch, right, to answer any questions. Hey, Simone.
Thanks so much. Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Taylor Jarrell. I'm a communication specialist on the Stratus team. I've been working in coordination with the Stratus team for about 2 years now. So I am joined today by Tez Natimi, who's the director of the Stratus Program Management Office. And today we want to give you a little bit of an overview of Stratus. I understand today there's a variety of places that we're at on our Stratus journey, whether or not we're a vendor who's coming on to pool 2 or 3, or if we've already won a task order. However, we wanted to give the opportunity to level set and introduce Stratus as an overview. We had a great number of panels this morning where we heard about some of the exciting work that's happening now and in the future, but we did want to give an opportunity for those of us who may not be aware of all of the details about the Stratus program, its design, a little bit of its history. We wanted to provide that opportunity for us here today. So I'm going to be going through just a few things for us. We're going to give an overview of Stratus, again, talk about its design and its basic breakdown, understanding what a basic ordering agreement is. It's one of the cleverest aspects of the design of the Stratus contract vehicle, so I want to acquaint everybody with that premise. We'll go over the pool structure, and then we're going to pivot from the perspective of design to the perspective of what it is to be a customer on Stratus and what that customer experience is like, and Tez will follow us for that. So initially, for an overview of Stratus, if I were to leave you with one thing, it would be this slide here. This slide is widely available for those of us within the USDA. You can also find this in our marketing presentation on one disc. But this is the highest level overview that I could provide of the Stratus program. Fundamentally, Stratus is a cloud service program consisting of a series of contract vehicles designed to quickly connect government to commercial IT services and solutions. Through its design, we are maximizing competition between our vendors and enabling a collective buying power for our federal partners and improving enterprise data management and elevating the overall customer experience and acquisition value for the USDA as a whole. The Stratus program is a basic ordering agreement, and we'll go into more detail about what precisely that means, but some of the benefits of it is that it expedites a contracting for uncertain requirements for supplies or services. The Stratus program is scoped for 10 years of operation. So between now and a decade from now, we have a lot of continuity and a lot of satisfaction that we're hoping to generate between us and our acquisition partners. And using the BOA establishes a robust and vetted group of pre-selected vendors. There are 3 pools. These pools determine the types of services and products that you can buy. The 3 pools, and again, we'll go into more detail in just a moment, are hyperscale cloud service providers. Pool 2 is our integration development support services, and Pool 3 is software as a service. Everything that the Stratus program has to offer has been designed with the USDA IT Strategic Management Plan in its idea. We've aligned in order to accelerate digital transformation, to drive innovation in support of the USDA mission, and to build a resilient program for our acquisition partners and for the USDA and our federal partners. And we're trying to enable, again, with that ECVM program, a data-driven decision-making at an enterprise level that previously has been challenging, and we're trying to improve that capability. So let's go into a little bit of what a basic ordering agreement itself is. A basic ordering agreement is not a contract. A basic ordering agreement, like its name suggests, is an agreement. It's like a handshake. You can also think of it as an umbrella. Love a technical difficulty. There we go. A basic ordering agreement is an umbrella under which certain task orders are bought. So what the basic ordering agreement allows us to do is to put certain requirements, whether they be data reporting requirements or other requirements that any task order written under Stratus will have. It's governed by the FAR. Again, it's not a contract, and there are 53 different BOAs at the moment with Stratus. Each vendor, when you come onto Stratus, signs a basic ordering agreement dependent on which pool that your services or products are under. So Pool 1, there are 4 providers: Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Oracle, and then a variety of vendors for Pool 2 and Pool 3. Each task order written under Stratus comes under the basic ordering agreement, and the requirements within that are brought onto each task order. What this allows us to do, and what we're really excited about, and for the basic ordering agreement itself, is that it allows us to have a pre-vetted group of vendors. So we have an open competition within Stratus, but because it's a scoped set of vendors, we're also providing an accelerated timeline for acquisition. And we're really excited about that balance that we're trying to strike between competition and an accelerated procurement process. So on those procurements, I've mentioned it before, but there are 3 pools. Pool 1 is our hyperscale, Pool 1 are cloud service providers, our hyperscale cloud service providers. Again, this is Google, Amazon, Oracle, and Microsoft. This is where you'll attain your compute, storage, DevSecOps tooling, software development tooling, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. And what is really clever and what we're very excited about with Pool 1 is we're eliminating a layer of cost by establishing a direct relationship with these hyperscale resellers. We had a very exciting day yesterday where we were celebrating our partnership with some of these companies. And what we are hoping and what we think we are going to achieve is that by having this direct relationship, we make a positive relationship on both sides. There'll be a benefit for our hyperscale reseller partners, as well as a benefit for the United States government by reducing that layer of cost and dealing directly with some of these companies. Pool 2 are our integrator services. This is your unified intake, governance, architecture, engineering, modernization, continuous authority to operate, change management services, a lot of those services which provide either expertise or assistance on any of our Pool 1, 2, or 3 offerings. Pool 3 are our software as a service resellers. You can also think of this as software, just software. This is our Salesforce, our ServiceNow, Atlassian, the tools which we use every day. So with all 3 pools, the design of them is to minimize a layer of cost, to contract directly, and to create an access to the most competitive resellers in this environment. So we've talked about the pools. We have a selection here of our vendors here. You can see again, Pool 1, our hyperscale resellers, Pool 2, unrestricted and restricted track. Along the lines of USDA, there is a prioritization in order to bring in small business. And so we have worked to in this initial set of vendors to make sure that our small business partners are represented here. And then with Pool 3, our unrestricted track, our larger providers, and then our restricted, just meaning small business on our 3rd. So Pool 3 pools, Pool 1, hyperscale, Pool 2 are integrator services, and Pool 3, software as a service. So I want to talk a little bit about what buying on Stratus looks like, shifting our perspective from a programmatic, from a structure, to what that experience is going to look like for us. So there are all acquisitions on Stratus can take one of 2 different paths. There is a delegated procurement authority, as we see on the left here. This is primarily for those of our organizations which have a pretty robust and mature procurement capability. This will most likely resemble procurement that you do on any other vehicle. There is, and it begins with a mission area contracting officer will complete a DPA training, again, just to make sure that any expectation or any element of the Stratus program is determined and communicated. And then that program works with DISC to ensure that an interagency agreement is set up. And after that, we have a complete solicitation review with the Stratus PMO, and then the mission area contracting officer conducts a DPA authorized TO competition on Stratus, just like they would with any other procurement. So this purchase through a delegated procurement authority allows for whatever the structure of your current procurements are to use more or less that same structure and those same routines that you have. However, DISC is providing a larger set of services if you'd like to purchase through DISC directly. It is a similar process, a parallel process where you work with a DISC customer engagement team in order to define whatever that need is that you're trying to accomplish with this procurement. You can create a requirement in a TO package. We'll send a solicitation review with the Stratus PMO, and then DISC creates issues and manages that task order on the behalf of you for Stratus. This is a lot more of a everything providing. If for whatever reason, or if for whatever reason your procurement is not necessarily as mature as it could be, or if you would like greater assistance, if you would like more of the services that DISC can provide, a purchase through DISC is more of a one-stop shop, an all-inclusive type of procurement, where we can guide you and take that package all the way from requirement to award itself. So again, 2 ways to purchase on Stratus: through DISC, or much like you can on any other vehicle, a delegated procurement authority. So we've talked a little bit about our structure so far. We've talked about what it means to buy. I want to hand it over to Tez Natimi, who's going to tell us a little bit more about that customer perspective and that customer view. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. So from the customer perspective, how does it vary, whether you're purchasing through DISC or from DPA, the Delegated Procurement Authority? Customer is in the center of all of our solutions. I think as it was shared during the morning, the whole Stratus came about because we want to bring better service to our customers. So customers are completely involved, whichever path they choose to go. If they plan to go through DISC, they can be involved in the procurement process. They would work with the Stratus PMO team if they want to facilitate the task order creation and be involved with the requirements development, whether it's structuring the task order, or being part of the competition strategy review, or deciding who to award it to towards the end. So they have as much control as they want, even though DISC is supporting and doing all the work for them. And they can also, if they choose to, they can also manage the contract post-award. And if they're going the DPA route, then the customer is completely autonomous in how they run it, as long as they meet the BOA requirements and the structure that's been defined. And the PMO is, again, here to support the customer in whatever way. And if they, when the DPA contracting officer or they put a package together, we're here to review it and confirm that it is per the BOA requirements that has been put out there. And towards the end, the customers are responsible. The whole services are done by the COs and the contracting office that's managing it. Click. How does it work? Okay. So coming to success stories. There is a lot of work to be done, but we have already seen a great success in Stratus being used for our customers. And some of these stories come from our pool 1 from the cloud service vendor providers. So one of the first things that we've seen here is for the customers that are currently the mission areas that have the FCHS, the Federal Cloud Hosting Services being currently used, they are paying about roughly 33 million across the 3 CSPs that they have been listed here. But the projected savings across, by using Stratus, they could be saving almost up to $7 million per year. And not only are they doing cost savings, they get a lot of host of services, whether it's ATO FedRAMP, using their direct relationship with the cloud service providers, having relationship with the COs and cores, or if they decide to do any increased services like digital transformation, that's all being supported for. In addition, one of the great things about Stratus is we are making everything transparent. We want to make modernization and security the forefront of the transformation. And we don't have any hidden fees. Everything is transparent for all the customers. And part of that is the ECVM program that's been talked about a couple of times today. We had a great conversation with the CSPs yesterday. They came and shared their services and all the options that are being provided for the customers. I keep thinking it's this way. All right. So reserved instances was another important factor which can bring great savings for our customers. They could be about 50 to 70% savings that customers can see by using reserved instances. And the projected rates here are put out here for the mission areas. And we're expecting about close to 800 million over a 3-year reserve instance purchase if it's like, they use 50% of reserve instances and 50% of pay and go. We do have a mission area called Forest Service who has seen savings about 42% using Stratus. They were paying about 2.4 million using Google Cloud Services in the past, but this year they are paying only about 1.2 or 3 million. So that is a success story there. Transparency, again, as mentioned before, FinOps, all of these great features and services are being provided to the customers using Stratus. So our next session is actually on this, and this is only for USDA mission areas, but there is information about the enterprise cloud vendor management, how it's important for vendors to be providing their invoicing in a proper format to make that information available. There are a couple of sessions on getting paid and the invoice formats and stuff coming up in the future breakouts. But we actually want to open this session up for Q&A. If I know there are quite a few vendors out here and a combination of mission areas and vendors, but if you have any questions, we're open to take them. Yeah, go ahead.
I understand the two options, disk assisted or DPA with their own contract shop. Is there any mandatory service they have to buy from disk when they open up a task order? I don't know what you're going to call these, call orders, task orders, BOA contracts, task orders. Okay. Or is it, are they like, if they do either, if they do the DPA option, does it cost them money? Is there a fee or anything? Or do they have to get the service?
Yeah, so there is, if you take the delegated procurement route, there is a small contract access fee, similar to any other procurement that you do on another vehicle. It is, of course, lesser than if you do the full disk assisted because it tracks with the amount of service that's being provided by disk. So it is a small fee in order to come on to Stratus as a delegated procurement authority, but it's a very competitive fee that we're working through. Yes, ma'am, we have said it. Oh, absolutely. We have said it. I believe it's dependent on the pool and it's dependent on the type of purchase that's happening. So on pool 2, there is enterprise license agreement. There's non-enterprise license agreement for 2 different fees. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. We've got a little bit of that information there. Our rates are directly at the bottom. So pool 2, pool 3, depending if it's a DPA or if it's a Stratus procurement, if it's an enterprise license agreement or if it's a non-ELA purchase, all of those rates can be listed on those takeaways on the back table there. Of course.
So are the mission areas responsible for onboarding the individual contractors?
So again, I mean, it depends on if you're taking disk assisted, then you don't have to be involved in the process because the customer choose to if you want to be involved in the process or not. All that is taken care of, I believe. Yeah. It depends. It depends. It depends. I did want to add one quick thing about the DPA. So there is a slight difference also that Stratus does give a little more because we help with the procurement process. If they choose to send the task order package to do solicitation review and such, I don't know if other contract vehicles provide that. So that is a slight difference that disk is involved even though it's a DPA. Any other questions?
Hi, Sandy Mestry. Question regarding when you had the other slide up with all the small business vendors that are leads. Does this vehicle allow you to do limited competition because you need hub zone or you need, from the socioeconomic? Are there opportunities there or does it go out to everybody when you're competing?
It depends on what the customer wants to do. If they want to only go, I think that this was something that was also covered during the sessions today. But if they decide that they want to work with a restricted group, then that's the route they go with. Yeah. Sure. Any other questions? Anything online?
Well, thank you all very much. We wanted to provide an opportunity just to give an overview, a basic introduction again, because I know that a lot of us are at different stages of our journey with Stratus. Some of us coming on for the first time, all of us celebrating today this exciting next 10 years. So I want to thank everyone very much. There are 3 more breakout rooms today. The next breakout room will occur in room right next door. This will be on the ECVM dashboards for mission area customers. This one breakout room is only available to USDA. However, every other breakout room this afternoon will be right here. Thank you all so much.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me in the back? Good. Good afternoon. I'm Domingo Negron. I'm the lead stratus COR for the vendor management branch, part of the financial operations division. Today I'm going to talk to you about the invoice processes and procedures. Now, basically getting paid. Okay. So to me, this is the most important brief of the day.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Fisher. I'm the lead data analyst on the ECVM team, also known as Enterprise Cloud Vendor Management. I'm sure you've heard about us quite a lot today.
This is our agenda for the day. We're going to talk about the submission procedures for the contractor generated invoice. And that is the invoice that you'll be submitting in this site called the IPP site. We're also going to talk to you about the submission procedures for the Enterprise Cloud Vendor Management invoice. That will be a new requirement that some of you are not used to, and I will talk to you about that one. ECVM billing details will be given by John, and that's the information that will be going into that new requirement, that spreadsheet that we're going to be using for our ECVM dashboards that we're going to use for our own analytics. The approval process, what happens after you send out the invoice? What happens? What is our approval process? And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is the resources for submission assistance. Basically, everything that's going to be available to you at your fingertips to help you throughout this process. So let me take it back to the top, and we're going to talk about next about the board compliant, which is the submission procedure. Now, per this process and basic order and agreement, vendors will need to visit 2 sites. The first site, the majority of you, which is like 4 in the room, are very familiar with. It is the Department of Treasury Invoice Processing Platform at rpp.gov. There you will need to go in there, register, follow the on-screen step-by-step instructions, and then submit a PDF invoice. Okay, I know you'll have your own accounting system. Just make sure whenever you submit it, you follow the instructions and make sure you change it to PDF. Okay, they're also there, you will have a guide that will walk you through those instructions. But it's basically, if you go in there and you register, it will not let you go to the follow screen until you finish that other one. So if you have errors, you will be prompted to fix those errors. And by the way, you don't have to write down anything if you're writing something down, because all this information will be provided to you, okay? Now, this is the new requirement that we have in Stratus, okay? The second site that you're going to visit is the Stratus Pool Access Request site. Once you are awarded a task order, meaning do not go in here if you're not awarded a task order, okay? Once you are awarded a task order, go in there and do the same thing, register, and then you will submit the ECVM invoice for the data we need for ECVM dashboards as a .csv file. As you all see right there, it's have a warning. This site is not ready. It's not ready yet. Okay, we're currently testing the application programming interface and the access user guide. Once we finish testing, then this site's going to be ready to you. Okay, so in your mind, it's like, how are we going to get this data now? Well, we have reverted to the manual procedures. Okay, now this, all you have to do is follow this 3-step process. The majority of you, which is all 4 again, thinking this is too easy because it's only 3 steps. You're right. You're right. It's too good to be true. Follow this step process, okay? The first thing you must do is complete attachment D, E, or G, just depending which pool are you assigned to, okay? It's in this particular order, pool 1D, pool 2E, and pool 3G, which is the spreadsheet that we're gonna provide to you. Fill it out. Make sure that all the data fields are filled out, and make sure it matches that PDF file. I have an example right here. It says, the totals in the Excel invoice file must match the contractor generated PDF invoice submitted via IPP. For example, if the PDF invoice spreads over 2 claims worth $1,000, the ECVM invoice must also have 2 claims worth $1,000. So basically, make sure that the PDF invoice that you submit in IPP matches the file, ECVM file, okay? Second thing you must do, obviously save it, and then following that pull structure right there, you could take a picture, take a note, but if I was you, I wouldn't even do anything because I will provide this information for you. Saving one of those, saving one of these, just save it using one of these naming convention, and then send it to the ECVM analytics email on step number 3. So basically you fill it out, you rename it, and send it. Just remember that, fill it out, rename it, and send it, okay? Good to go? Now, John will now talk to you about what's gonna go in that spreadsheet. Gonna give you an overview of all the details that's gonna go in that spreadsheet.
All right, thank you, Domingo. So beginning with the header details is the same across all pools. It is generic information that allows us to identify the particular invoice, items like your invoice number, the unique identifier for that submission, your invoice date, the date that you actually submitted it, task order number. That allows us to relate this back to the task order governance, as well as key point of contact information, like who's the vendor, who submitted that invoice. If we find something wrong, this helps us get to the bottom of it very quickly and get you paid. So the more information that you can consistently provide means that we can identify quickly, validate, and yeah. Next is the more fun one, in my opinion, which is billing details. Now, as you've heard many, many times today, each pool is a little bit unique. So you have your pool 1, hyperscale CSPs, you have your pool 2, integrators, and then your pool 3, SaaS products. Now, there's going to be a lot of overlap, but the key differences I wanted to highlight here just to reduce any potential confusion. So with pool 1, we have some cloud hyperscale provider specific categories like cloud services, which is going to be your cloud infrastructure, any kind of marketplace purchases, or if there are professional services like training being provided directly from the CSPs. CLIN details, again, with task order alignment, means that we can easily validate and double check that information quickly. Pool 2, our integrators, have categories specific to their pool. So we'll have the professional services based off of labor hour, which came up in a previous session, professional services, FFP service support, or other direct charges like travel, etc. Again, all aligning to that CLIN task order management. And then finally, pool 3, which is our SaaS pool, we have specific to those titles or categories. We have license, professional services training, professional services FFP service support. A very unique identifier for pool 3 is the request to provide a SKU in alignment with those CLIN details. Again, going back to supporting the Stratus goals of better decision-making, transparency, and just understanding the holistic view, which you've heard a few times today, and how everything ties together. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Domingo so we can talk about how those invoices get approved and provide a little bit more details on those processes. Thank you.
So what happens after you follow those 3 easy steps, basically? Fill it out, rename it, and send it. What happens on the other end? I know you get anxious. What's going to happen and how long it's going to take me to get paid? Pretty simple. The ECVM team will review your ECVM data file, the one that you send us that CSV, and compare it to that PDF. They'll ensure that all the data fields are filled out. If everything is correct, they will let your COR know, and your COR would approve your invoice for payment. If it's not correct, they will let your COR know these are the data fields that need to be filled out. COR will send it back to you. You send it back to us with the corrections to that ECVM, and guess what? You're gonna get it right because we're gonna tell you exactly what to do. If you get it wrong the third time, we're gonna do it again. And we will do it all over again until you get it right. We are here to enhance the vendor. This is the vendor management branch is all about vendor enhancement experience, okay? That's what we're here for, to serve you. Okay, this is not about the customer anymore, it's about you getting paid, okay? Now, if you forget how to do all this, this is your assistance right here. You have the IPP guy. The IPP guy will give you a step-by-step process on how to register IPP, convert your file, and submit your invoice. You also have the vendor ECVN invoice guy and those ECVN analytics that will give you a step-by-step instructions on how to submit and complete your ECVN invoice. You also have your ECVN invoice manual submission. Your assigned COR would show you how to do this, would give you the step-by-step instruction how to do that. Go also contact me. That is my cell phone number. And for those who use that, take the Delegated Procurement Authority training. This training is also provided in there. Once we get that second site ready to go, okay, you will have the Stratus Pool Access Request Site Guide that will give you step-by-step instruction how to automatically submit that invoice. So if you take anything out of this presentation, please save, take a picture, take notes of this slide, okay? Because this is the slide that when you go back home and you forget about things, you're gonna contact one of these people over here, and we're gonna walk you through the process. Remember, we're here to work with you. If you get it right, if you don't get it right the first, second, and third time, don't worry about it. We got you, okay? Question? Too easy. Remember, fill it out, rename it, send it. If you don't get it right, we will work with you. There's no questions. Have a blessed and wonderful day.
All right, we're good now? Great, I will not yell. So we're going to talk about security governance category management in accordance with what Stratus and the concepts behind it. There we go. So we've already heard a lot of information about Stratus. We're really focused on the outcomes and how we're going to leverage Stratus to enable USDA and our mission areas and our federal partners to execute more. And with that, some of the ideas around how we're executing, as you guys all know, as pool 2, 3 vendors, you saw that FedRAMP compliance was recommended primary. FSMA compliance would be secondary. And then the goal about how we have the data for the standardized reporting is to allow us to understand what's being used, how it's being used, and how it's being bought across the organization. And one of the key factors with our enterprise vendor management, Chris Peterson's in the back, give him a shout out. Yeah, I'm between you guys and happy hour, so this is gonna be hopefully fun. So a lot of this is really around how we're gonna function better and operate these things. So the USDA is gonna start enabling a cloud center of excellence. That's something that we've established prior and kind of fell off. So we're going to start organizing in a way that's more industry standard, so everybody kind of has an understanding how we're going to operate. And a lot of that's going to tie into how we're going to have our governance model. But as I said, ECVM and these other pieces are going to really focus on how we execute. And that's going to allow us to use that enterprise buying power. So when I talk about that enterprise buying power, we'll see consumption of resources. Mr. Legrand's here. So I'm going to say we're buying Datadog on the Pool 1 for some reason, and we're using it Pool 1 marketplace, and we're buying that, but we also have a Pool 3 vendor that already is supplying it at a larger scale. So we're paying more in Pool 1 than we are in Pool 3. USDA will execute a way to move that from one pool so we can concentrate on a larger enterprise purchase to better value, better buying power for the department. And that allows us to scale better. So we have it under a singular contract and these other kinds of approaches. And that's the whole value of the enterprise cloud vendor management focus, standardized reporting, and the exact same concept as how we're doing our security governance. We want federal FedRAMP compliance. So that's, for the most part, that's all the pool 3 is expected to be pool FedRAMP compliant. And what we want to do is we'll adopt that at the enterprise. If more than one missionary is running this is here, I'm speaking for Simone/Brandon now on that security governance. So we'll establish an ATO, a FedRAMP-based ATO and a FISMA boundary at the department level. And the missionaries will inherit those controls. So we moved from 575 moderate controls. The missionaries would be responsible for roughly 165. Add in EOTH, which is already a standard across the department, you lose 21 more controls. So now you're getting into like a 250 range at the application level. That's the application teams like Mr. Rojas has just joined us. They get to focus on that part, the mission enablement, the mission delivery side, or the enterprise application services that Simone runs. They're focusing on that portion. And we're inheriting these controls across the department as opposed to integrating them and building them in separate different silos and not really leveraging the enterprise buying power, the enterprise resources. We want to be more efficient on how we're doing that. And that's kind of the whole concept of why we have Stratus established and set up the way it is. And the vendor management and those functions are allow us to see it so we know where it is and we can start talking to folks and say, how can we better serve the department? How can we make the life easier on the business side on delivering the business? They focus on delivering business. We focus on all the trudgery to get it there so they don't have to, right? Build once, use many times concept on our ATOs, on our buying power as well. So there's our roadmap to our future state based on the Cloud Center of Excellence recommendations we got from Gartner about a year ago. So you can see we're somewhere in the middle term here, short term, midterm, 6 to 12 months. USDA has already taken over in excess of 60 FedRAMP ATO boundaries today from CPOC. We have roughly 12 more that are going to get finalized. They will be owned at the department level. As other programs and needs come in, onboarding a new platform or something, we'll do that at the department level where it's logical. If it's going to be used by more than one mission area, it'll move out of a mission area boundary into an enterprise boundary. So we can reduce duplication and remove that governance and requirements on monitoring. FedRAMP requires, or USDA requires, continuous monitoring of FedRAMP packages. It is in excess of 16 hours per ATO boundary every month today. We can get into a whole other discussion about XCCDF and the new compliance monitoring automation pieces, but this is the idea to standardize so we can start enabling better mission area delivery through simplicity. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be redone. We're all using 853, hopefully Rev 5, but not everybody's on Rev 5, but that's okay. We're all getting there, right? So this is how it started. This is where I started talking about a year ago. Gartner came in and told USDA we needed to change how we did ATOs because we had CPOC as the authorizing official and the assurance body. So it was a non-recommended pattern. And that's why we took them over and started developing this process. And that's where Brandon's team is running it. We actually have an ATO, FedRAMP ATO as a service that they establish and we can operate that. We can onboard and operate that. They're using pool 2 vendors to do that today. So some of you might be pool 2 vendors and know that. That's why it was in there. And we actually have 3 POW in pool 2 for some of you that don't know. So if you need FedRAMP compliance, we have that capability within our own side. You're also not aware today, USDA is already a cloud service provider in FedRAMP as well. USDA has 3 FedRAMP boundaries today that we are the cloud service provider. Connect.gov, Ag Cloud Managed Platform as a service, and our data center is a cloud. Those are our 3 FedRAMP boundaries today, so we know how hard it is to manage those. And ours are all SOC level 2 if you're not aware. That's not insignificant because I see some nodding heads. They know how hard that is. So we're talking about the 72 ATOs. Dave Peters is the authorizing official delegated from the CIO, Gary. And then we have system owners across the different areas. So Pascalini's a system owner for one of them, right? Simone has several system owners because those are down at the division level. So we were able to get that into the lines of business, the folks that actually use it, but Dave's still the authorizing official. And Dave Peters, if I didn't say that. Not Dave Gatliff, although he probably is one also. He is one, he just told me. So yay. It's more than I have, so good job. Any questions so far? Cool. This is hopefully interactive and entertaining. I'm trying. So one of the things I talked about it earlier, this is a Gartner recommended a reinvented ATO process. And this is how I was describing it. The mission area ACIOs have delegated authority to be an authorizing official. The recommendation is for anything that's used only by one mission area. So if this is repetitive, I apologize, but that's the idea. So we're using it at one mission area, they'll own the boundary and they'll own the system. If it gets used by two mission areas, it becomes an enterprise and we'll transition it out. So that way they're not focusing on that and we're providing a shared service and we're splitting the costs and we're getting better redundancy and establishing lower costs for those groups because now the single mission area is not paying for that ATO. They're paying for half because we split it between two mission areas up to 8 mission areas, right? It gets to be very cost effective for the USDA. Helps us establish and operate and get a mean time to delivery shorter as well because we have the shared control model, the shared inheritance of those controls. And that's really using the idea of on the slides we've seen before. So you have on the far left, it's all self-managed, whole stack of blue. It's a, IaaS server design. You get into SaaS and there's only like 3 areas that you're managing over on the far right. Same idea with our security controls. As we move those inherited controls, it puts less focus on the mission area side so they can focus on the business delivery. And CSAM is a cybersecurity asset management system that the department uses. It is managed by the Department of Justice. It's a shared service for a lot of federal agencies. There's some references in here about modernizing it, getting it to be more automated. This is something we're also working with FedRAMP on their new GRC tool. For those of you, some of you guys are probably tracking that whole thing. We want to adopt the same model and leverage as much as we can as well. So I mentioned earlier, we're going to establish a cloud center of excellence so we can focus on these different areas. These are pretty much straight out of Gartner. So if you're snapping pictures, they're just plain old vanilla Gartner ones. They're not super specific for USDA, but this is the idea how we're going to help leverage how we operate across the department. We'll have these different bodies that are responsible and accountable to the partners in the mission area, as well as with you guys, our partners on the industry. So we'll have a way to intake and outtake. We already heard like Don Bittner talk this morning. They're going to be operating like incubators and things of that nature. How are we getting those new innovations into the department? As those transition out of incubation, they're going to get authorized to move towards production. That's where it's going to transition out of the CTO office, CDO office into an enterprise solution. Again, back to DISC is the AOSO, and we're going to operate authorizing official and system owner, sorry. We're going to adopt that so it can be leveraged by multiple mission areas by design. And that's kind of the focus. There might be use cases where there are individual mission areas still. So we're going to take this idea and we're going to break it up. Everybody knows, well, sorry. USDA by default, DISC is the cloud broker for the department. So our cloud broker office is hyperscaler focused. So Pool 1 generally, so Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Oracle Cloud are all direct contracts on Pool 1 today. Those are all Pool 1. So when Pool 2 vendors come in, we don't want to have a discussion about them reselling Amazon. USDA will use our own contract vehicle. Integrators will operate on Amazon on our behalf. The USDA will always own that data in that structure, as well as the ATO boundaries. So it's going to be simplified and scalable. as opposed to we don't have vendor lock-in and things of that nature as we move forward in our approach as a department. And it'll also allow us to leverage our USDA net connectivity. If you're not aware, we're an EIS customer with Lumen, and we have high bandwidth connections between our cloud providers within our own boundary. So that's some of the key points on why we do these things this way. And that's why USDA has taken an enterprise approach to how we're delivering this. In the past 3 years, we've leveraged the Cloud Working Group as an advisory council. What we're doing is putting teeth behind that by establishing a Cloud Center of Excellence. We'll have authority to drive some of this and get it approved and modernized faster so we can get policy and these other hurdles tackled and out of our way so we can move forward in conjunction with each other, with industry here and with our cloud working group partners across the mission area. So we're doing it at a big, I didn't hear partnership as much today, but it was a big discussion yesterday. We're partnering on how we're doing this, and that's why we want to have this awareness. What's being bought and what's being used and where it is across the different parts of the department. So we can go, hey, again, I'll use because Jack's sitting right here. Datadog's being used in this scenario, another scenario where you have a different use case. Why would we go buy another tool? That's an anti-pattern to a best practice. We've already ATO'd it. We've already procured it. We can just scale. And that's the idea. Doesn't mean that innovation's locked in. There are business cases that would drive you towards different solutions. And that's what we want, but we want to be data-driven about how we make those decisions. So we can understand our cost and how we're procuring it and how we're securing it. So we're doing all these different phases of our approach. This is kind of the idea of how those pillars are going to work. So we know what we're buying, how we're buying it, and how we're securing it, and how we're delivering it. Any questions so far? Okay, go ahead, John. I love it. That is there's not a policy that requires it, and the USDA doesn't have a security requirement that would ever remove us from being able to use a cloud. But that's more of a technological thing because we actually, so just so everybody, here's a pool 1, 2, and 3. Within pool 1, we have the ability, all of them are FedRAMP moderate at a minimum. All of them also have a FedRAMP high option as well. That exceeds on-premise today. Our data center is not FedRAMP high. So like, that's not trying to be glib, but we have capabilities that exceed our current internal use. But now there might be other reasons why, if you have a data connectivity or a large data pattern, or like a mainframe and integration piece, that might drive it to being more effective to being on premise because of the highly transactional within that data that's within that system. And we really want to be cognizant about those decisions, because I can guarantee you, we were in a call, and Simone might have been on this call a year ago. Someone thought it would be a good idea to move 60 petabytes daily from one cloud provider to the other. If anybody's really good at quick math, how long do they think that would take? The network engineer said somewhere in years, not days, years, for 60 petabytes. So it was a non-starter, and they proposed and someone accepted that contract as a solution. And we were like, that math doesn't work out. Microsoft couldn't even allow you to get it out of Outlook that fast. Just a technological hurdle. So we were kind of bound. So there's a lot of scenarios where you are kind of bound by capabilities. Yeah, it's a good question. And we're not. Gold star. Who's got the gold stars? So here's an established makeup of the groups, and it's really so you see I put my name on the top, of course, right? Because I'm the one talking. Just kidding. So this is the idea how we're going to break it out. So we have like a core group in the blue, some supporting advisory functions in green, And then orange is like the domain experts across the organization. There's N plus chairs in those orange areas for different folks. Generative AI, the CDAIO is an example. There might be a scenario because we have someone NRCS, right? Yeah. FPAC. So FPAC's a good example. They would sit if there is a solution that is like their geospatial data, they're one of those orange seats in that scenario because they got a lot of it. And we really need them to help us because of their geo data. And so that would be a time where they would come and fill an orange seat that they maybe don't need to be there all the time. They might want to be there all the time. And that's what we want to be able to leverage the subject matter experts across the different parts of the organization. NFC is another one. They might not sit there every day or OCFO, but there might be times where they want to come and be involved because there's a domain impact that they care about. They might want to be active and sit there all the time. That's the idea. So we can have everybody has a seat at the table that needs to, and we have the authority to drive these decisions in the organizational, the enterprise in one direction. And that's the goal, is have USDA moving in a single direction. That's why Stratus and our data is so key here, because it helps us define kind of where we're going and how we're going to do it. And then we use our RFIs and RFPs to have great innovation from our partners that are sitting out here with us today, right? That's where you guys help us figure out problems. Somebody sits at the table and is like, hey, I want to go do a thing. Cool. How big? How often? You know, start getting that so we can get some discussion, get some input from folks. And it gives a good way to have that input and outputs between us. So we have a collaborative approach to how we're going to do this within the organization. And we know what we're buying, how we're buying it, and all those things. And this is how we're going to operate. The USDA is a single entity. Such a weird concept, right? I know it's pretty hard for us to do most of the time. And then I've kind of interleaved this a lot the whole time because category management is very important. It's what we're buying and how. That's so we can be more efficient on our licensing. I'll use an example. Some of you might be pool 3 today at USDA. Its minimum consumption is 10,000 units. USDA is buying all of those at just under 10,000 units. We have enough consumption, we would be on their third tier of discounting. But nope, we're buying them in 5 different places, so we're all just under it. So we're paying the highest price possible most of the time. Microsoft Unified Support is another example. 18 independent contracts at USDA for that today. How many do we need? It's all the same stuff. It's all the same vendor. It's all Microsoft in the back. Who's winning there? Not USDA. We need the support. We need to do it. Let's buy it efficiently. And it gives you, the integrator, the partners, a more directed relationship, a better understanding. It's not, God, I don't know who's buying it. I don't know where it is, right? Insert category management slide here. So I just realized I did not talk about OMB sum tier 1. Anybody know what that means besides me? So OMB is the Office of Management Budget. You guys all know that. So SUM, spend under management. USDA Stratus is getting approved to be a spend under management tier 1. Prior to this, USDA was not buying cloud on a spend under management approach. This is giving us credit for buying it under a tiered category management function. And this is key because as we increase our density and increase our purchasing power, we're going to move up those tiers. And as we get to tier 2 and tier 3, that's going to allow us to get towards a GWAC, a government-wide acquisition contract capability. Because the first step is making it mandatory consideration for USDA. That's tier 1. Tier 2 is mandatory use within the department. Tier 3 is optional use outside of the department. So bring your outside agencies and let's make that happen. Just kidding. Well, I am, but not really. So that's big for us. That's to allow us to get credit and really drive down our goals from the executive office and the other management functions within the department. That's why we're doing this. This is kind of the structure of the 3 pools and the why and the how. This is kind of getting the details. I actually just realized Jason Cool is USDA's spend under category management liaison to OMB. He is the contracting officer lead that helped us with Stratus. So we did this on purpose and it was very specific and we were really driving towards that goal. And this is actually ties to our OMB or our response to GAO 24-10637, 137. For those of you keeping track at home. So here's a summary of our impact. I think you guys have heard enough today. We can beat this drum as much as you want. How much do you want me to repeat? Yes, question in the back. Yes. No comment on that specific piece, but USDA is moving to a continuous ATO paradigm. But I don't want to talk about specific opportunities, but watch your mailboxes. Good question. Yes, and good example. That's something that's happened in the past. You heard FEMA talk earlier this morning. Some of their work happens to fall in that same kind of paradigm. EAS has done that with some other work. Continuous ATO is a very interesting topic, and it's something we're driving for. And that's some of the reasons why we want to define the what and the how, so then we can start automating how it's done and audited, and that gets you there. So that's a great question, and that's where we want to go. Brandon would probably get really passionate about it, but he's on his way to the airport, whatever. Sorry. Yeah, I think they awarded a GRC. Yep. I didn't want to say the name because I wasn't sure which one it was, but that's what I thought. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Yes, sir. That is a great question. Really, our first start was collecting that data so we could start building in those blocks and start understanding the kind of how it's used. Carmen, do you have any additional comments or details on that? I don't want to overstep what I'm stating, but that's our goal. That's why I want to start collecting this data. So then we can start normalizing it, standardizing it. Now, maybe Topher, is that right? Yeah, that's our goal. Cause really the reality was USDA didn't have this data prior to Stratus. It was sunk into individual vendors, individual contracts, and very non-standardized. And a lot of times it was locked into OneDrive, email, all sorts of places. And what we wanted to do is bubble that up so we could start having that discussion and start understanding it. And then being able to say, hey, here's where something happened, some project work over there, highly valuable, very great success for a customer. Let's go talk to them because they have another use case, this other program that doesn't talk to that program. Let's go let them know about it so they can go look and reuse as much as possible. Because a lot of times that's like, some percentage of work overlaps because we have same federal compliance and things like that we had to meet. And then it's, the business rules, things like that are usually like the nuances between one department and another, or one program and another, depending on delivery. And that's what the USDA's goal was, to drive down those kinds of things as well as help innovate. Where we've seen success, let's keep using that success pattern. We don't need to keep reinventing the wheel over and over just because it went to a different vendor or solution, when we could capitalize on that and actually operate as an enterprise. And that's really what USDA is trying to do here, is operate at a better scale. FPAC's here represented today, right? So FPAC will have a lot of wins and things that are really successful. Geospatial is a great example. They're doing a lot of great work. Well, if you're a smaller agency that has a similar use case, but not the same scale, why can't you follow that pattern? Use their knowledge and their experience to do that, as opposed to going and having to find someone that's going to go do a whole one-off just so you can manage your own program a little bit, right? And we have a lot of that. Like Foreign Ag's a great example. They're a small agency. They have a lot of niche cases that they're supporting in different parts, but FPAC, RE, some of these other mission areas have had success in those very similar fields. It's just a different constituency. So we want to make sure we're using that success pattern and then leveraging it to help them modernize without having to invest as much. All right. You guys, this is weird being a press secretary. Thanks. He's just trying to get me to buy him a drink. Any more questions, comments, concerns? I hope this was entertaining. That was my goal. I was told to keep it light, keep it quick, thorough. Anything you want to add, Simone? Yeah, but we've been talking about these slides for a while. I was a little surprised Brandon didn't remember. Anything else? If not, let's enjoy the weekend because it is a Friday in DC. So some of y'all might have to try and fight traffic on the way out. I see some nods. Oh, thank you.